Into order. A couple things like to mention. This is actually local government week, and it's also small business week. And told that it's also a recognition of early childhood education appreciation day. So just to make those notes. Just a few other comments. It wasn't planned, but we had found a way to increase parking on Main Street. It's, you know, what people, I guess, are not recognizing, or some are not recognizing. It's unfortunate, but it was a traffic accident that caused the situation. It's really unfortunate whenever we have a heritage downtown and one very nice building got damaged. We don't know what the end result of that will be, but we will find out in time. I do have to comment about the fact that the CAO called the emergency control group together. I think the first time we met was 10 or 10:30 on Saturday morning. Yeah. So everybody that needed to be here was here. We got the reports. I do want to compliment Brad for pulling everything together, and whether people realize it or not, when we have to call the emergency control group, I'm not the person running the show, not at all. I've got basically only a couple of responsibilities out of that entire event. Anything that goes out as a press release is to have the mayor's name on it, because I'm the voice of the council, sharing the information. And if in fact there was a need to actually declare an emergency, that is my responsibility to make that call. Everything else is run by Brad, because Brad is the one in charge of the staff and handling all the different departments. I want to give Public Works and the fire department credit for being on top of things and everything they did. And you know what? I've been through the training session enough. I should have thought of some of these things on my own. But when Ken was giving his first report and he talked about the fact he was here till 4:30 in the morning on Friday night or Saturday morning, whatever you want to call it. And one of the things that they got on right away was making sure both the gas and the hydro were turned off in the building. And that wasn't something that had crossed my mind at all. The building was still standing. I hadn't thought of it, but they were already looking for, if something drastic had happened, they wanted to make sure that the situation wouldn't have got even worse without any input from us. So very proud of them for that. Public Works got here pretty quick and helped out with traffic control and everything else and signage. So I think everybody did a really good job. And so thank you to staff for that. We would like to acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the neutral peoples. And can I get a mover and a seconder for the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Morrison, second by Councillor Fisher, that the agenda for the regular meeting of council dated October 17th of 2023, as amended to include item 14.1 regarding a request from the Cranbrook Community Center Committee be adopted. All those in favor? And motion carries. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest from any member of council this evening? And none at this time. A mover and a seconder for the previous meeting's minutes. Councillor Chartrand, Councillor Deal. That the council of the municipality of Huron East approve the following council meeting minutes as circulated. That's the regular meeting of October 3rd, the public meeting of October 3rd, and the Committee of Adjustment public hearing on October 3rd. Is there any comments or questions from any of those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And motion carries. That's consent agenda, but I don't see anything on the consent agenda.
There's just two items on the consent agenda.
Okay, so there was two items on the consent agenda, 6.1 and 6.2. Did anybody need to see either of those removed and discussed? No. Can I get a mover, move by the deputy mayor and the seconder, Councillor Dalton, that the consent agenda item 6.1 and 6.2 be received for information and approved. All those in favor? And motion carries. 7.1 delegation, Lisa Harper and Ryan Erb, United Way Public, United Way per Huron. I'm still typing that wrong. Huron County, Huron East United Way. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. Good evening, everyone. from the public and staff and council members. We're grateful to have the opportunity to present a bit of an update on behalf of the United Way and let you know about some pending work that we are imagining here for this particular region of Huron East. So for those who don't know me, I'm the United Way's executive director. I've been in this role for 13 years now. So I've been around this circuit a few times, come to council here a number of times over the years, and thankful for the gracious reception we always receive and for the support that we receive in this community as we work hard to help the most vulnerable people here. The United Way is a 100% local organization. And so what we do in a nutshell is we help people right here. And so we want to make sure that people understand the work that we're doing is about your neighbors and your friends and your colleagues, perhaps who are facing an unfortunate, difficult situation in this community. And so I'll walk you through some statistics about some of the challenges that we're facing, so you have some context for the issues. And towards the end of the presentation, we're gonna share with you a couple of our plans for the near future for here. So I'll take the next slide, please. As I mentioned, we're 100% local. We help here right in your backyard in this community. And we do that in a number of different ways. So the United Way is an organization that many people know as an organization that raises money and funds organization. We are the largest funder of social services next to the government. And so without us, you know, some 40 organizations in this community and the programs that they serve might fail. And so the United Way plays an important role in the social fabric of the community by making sure that organizations are able to provide services and supports to community members in their time of need. But in addition to that, the United Way does a lot of other things. We're an organization that provides research and evidence. We're an organization that provides leadership and tries to convene conversations around the social issues that we face. But all of it is focused on what's happening right here in this community. So next slide, please. As an organization, we help people understand our work by saying that we're a unifying force. So we're leveraging the relationships that we have. One of the things we're very privileged and fortunate to have is relationships with local government, relationships with the provincial government, relationships with the federal government, relationships with not-for-profit organizations, relationships with business, relationships with donors. And at the locus of those relationships, we are able oftentimes to leverage things in a unique way for communities, pulling together energy to try to solve the social problems that we're facing. And so it's a pretty important thing. We do advocacy work at all levels of government to try to change the social conditions that we're facing, whether that's federal or provincial. At the same time, we try to provide emergency support for people in our communities. And in the middle, we do community development work to establish new programs and services when there is a gap and there is a need. Next slide, please. So currently we're working on a number of major social issues. You can see some of them represented here, whether it's intimate partner violence or income, inadequate income, housing, as we all know is one of the greatest challenges we're facing as a community, or food security. All these social issues are challenges that individuals are facing in this community, and sadly in an increasing way. So we're trying hard to work at those issues, not just funding programs and services, but actually addressing the issues and making changes through partnerships to move ourselves forward. Next slide, please. Some examples, just so that you're aware of the work that we're doing locally when we fund organizations and we talk about social issues. So we know from our friends at the OPP, for example, that there were 423 calls last year for intimate partner violence, and that's substantial, right? So we know there's a lot of folks that are challenged in receiving and that specific issue in the community. And at the same time, we're funding organizations like the Huron County Women's Shelter that's providing service to people from this region, right? So each and every year, people right here from Huron East are accessing those services, which is critically important to know. Next slide, please. We also are working, helping with youth, right? So every year, the United Way is supporting Safe Homes for Youth here in Huron County substantially, and that organization is able to help people find placements in homes, maybe not their own, but they're also able to help them find solutions. Some of them do end up in shelter, just 2 actually from Huron County. The rest, some 50 youth that we're able to find support through Safe Homes for Youth and not need to go to shelter, which is exciting that those kinds of things were avoided. So by and large, Safe Homes for Youth, for example, is a prevention organization that's working at risk youth, and so we're supporting them in their work. A number of other statistics on the next slide. We know that 50% of the people in our regions are actually living on less than what we calculate as the living wage. You've heard me here talk about living wage before. We encourage businesses to, as they can, pay a living wage. It will increase again in November, sadly, because of inflation. But we recognize that people in our community can't earn a living wage. They can't afford to eat. They can't afford to pay hydro. And so we have a challenge in front of us as inflation pushes us up, but income is a significant issue. Next slide, please. We also know that mental health is a huge challenge, right? 1 in 2 Canadians will face a mental health challenge in their lifetime. And we know that organizations in our community here are helping to support people in that situation. Next slide, please. We also are working with youth that are accessing services. And so whether it's through our 211 program online, where they can access services through something we call direct youth, or whether it's actually calling 211 directly. And so one of the jobs that Lisa has working with the United Way is supporting our 211 service. So she can explain that.
Next slide. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 211 program. 211 is a helpline that folks can call 24/7, 365 days a year. There's always going to be a real live body on the other end when folks call in. And it's a real lifeline for folks who are looking for access and connection to local services. And it can be something as simple as a parent looking for a tutor for their child, an isolated senior that's looking for seniors programs. We recently just updated all of the community meals that the churches are doing in the areas. It's a really fantastic resource for folks to reach out and get connected with those services, free of charge, available in 150 languages. It's just a really fantastic resource. And we always suggest, if you do know somebody that's struggling or looking for assistance of any kind, have them make that call and reach out to 211.
Next slide. I think we'll actually go to the next one after this. One of the things that I want to help people understand here, and this council understand today, is the way that the United Way works in our region. We have become an organization that is trying to be even more local than we are. So we're local in the sense that we're a Huron organization. We pay attention to what's happening in this community, but how can we get even more local and pay attention to the needs that are happening right here in Huron East? And so we've spent a lot of time here. I've been at many meetings in your community over the years and listening to people, and that always influences what we do and how we operate our services and what we fund and everything else. However, our commitment is to do a better job of that. And so we want to officially in January launch a local community committee for Huron East, and volunteers will have already been gathered. Some of them who have agreed to serve on our local community committee will be seeking others. And they will help us understand the unique needs of Huron East and the community surrounding Seaforth. And so we're looking forward to working locally with volunteers here in the community to understand the issues, but then also to move and progress towards perhaps new services for the community as we identify needs within the region. And so you can see on the map there that we actually have community committees established around the region. We have 6, and we're going to have 7 as of January. And so this is our way of being hyper local, making sure that we're paying attention to what's happening here in your community. And so critical way that the United Way operates, and we're excited about expanding, I suppose, even though we've been here for many years, but with a more focused footprint in your community. And Lisa is going to be supporting that community committee in her role as community development manager. Next slide, please.
So hopefully everyone in the room has heard of the Coldest Night of the Year event. It's a yearly event, fundraising event. It's done across Canada. And we're very proud, as United Way per Huron, to be involved in it every year. Each region holds their own Coldest Night of the Year events. And last year, actually the last 2 years, Ryan and I were just talking, there actually was a Huron East contingency who did the walk and who raised funds. So we already have folks in the area who are showing interest in being part of what United Way does in the community. So we're super excited to be hosting it again. It's going to be on February 24th, 2024. More information is going to be available very soon. And again, so there will be the 7 events this year, 1 within each of our regions. And the event is to gather people together and to raise awareness about, homelessness and those experiencing hurt in our local areas. It's been a fantastic fundraiser, and we raise thousands of dollars every year through this initiative. And that all comes right back into the local communities to support the programs and services.
the coldest night of the year grossed around $500,000 last year, which is just incredible. So we're so grateful for the way in which communities surround us with that. So the last slide, I do have an ask for you tonight. As we set up our community committee, we're looking for representation either from council or from staff. In every other community, we have this, and it's critical that we have a strong partnership so that we can make sure that communication happens thoroughly, effectively, regularly. And some regions actually have both a council member and a staff member that attend our community committee meetings. We can tell you more about the specific duties as required, but essentially it's a monthly meeting that we meet for about an hour and a half, 9 times a year. And the role for someone from staff and or from council would be to be participating in those conversations, helping us understand the local social issues, making decisions about what our next steps might be around new social programs that we might try to introduce here in the community. And so tonight, that's the ask, is to continue our partnership, but in a very tangible way with someone joining us, or maybe 2 someone's joining us around that community.
Just one question on that, Brian. You said once a month, but where would the meeting be held?
They'll either be held virtually or here, somewhere in, we haven't actually located a place yet.
No, and we find, you know, if Mother Nature gets cranky, we sometimes our meetings are virtual from November to March. So yeah, we always have that virtual option, and then try the rest of the year to meet in person, so.
But we would be looking for space here. It's not like we're inviting people to come to Stratford for a meeting or something.
Any questions of council on the presentation or about the United Way as a whole? Lisa, I just had one.
Yes.
I know during, there was at least one of our training sessions when we did it for emergency situations. We talked about 211, and there was an example of how we could have used them that time, and I don't remember when this was, but is there an actual list of all the services that you can get through 211?
There is, so through United Way, Perth Huron, there is a website called Info Perth Huron, and it is connected directly to the 211 database. But what Info Perth Huron does, it's just the Perth and Huron listings that you can hop online and that you can find. There is the master 211.ca website, but that Info Perth Huron really narrows it down. Type in churches, type in education, you type it in, it'll come up as a list right in front of you. And it gives you pretty much all the information you need to know to get connected.
And are you also thinking, just jump in here, around the services that 211 can offer perhaps during disaster management? So
It was, that's how it came into the
right,
conversation.
yeah, okay. Yeah, so at any point in time, we're happy to help you connect with 211 Ontario, who would be involved in that, and or the call center out of Collingwood, called Community Connection, that provides the service locally in this region. They take the calls. They also do disaster management planning. So for example, when the tornado hit Godrich, they managed all the volunteers, that kind of thing. And so they have protocols in place and agreements in place with many municipalities in terms of what service they would offer in some of those circumstances. And we're happy to make the connection with those folks. Our job locally is to update the database, and that's what Lisa and another colleague do. But we also can connect with those wider sort of services if that's something that you're interested to find more about.
Okay, all right, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for you to Ryan. Ryan, I'm just looking at some of these numbers that are on here. People involved with violence and homelessness and stuff. They're staggering. Did you find that really peaked during COVID, or COVID kicked it off?
Yeah, most of the statistics that we've been monitoring were exacerbated by COVID. There's no doubt about it. But we haven't seen them regress. So the wait lists for organizations have grown substantially. The number of people that are accessing food banks grown substantially, and we're not seeing any regression. So,
Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Lisa. Give me a call about that committee, please,
Oh, absolutely.
if you would.
I will put you on the list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for your presentation.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
We now have a staff report of the Geiger Municipal Drain Tender Options. We don't go into this the way we normally do we?
No, we do have the engineer from RJ Bernstein at delay here, as well as Ken McCollum, our drainage superintendent. The process is to hear from landowners to either add or remove their names from the petition. And then one of the options must be decided upon by council.
So right off the bat, I've got a list so that I do this in the right order here. My first thing is to call for any landowners that wish to add their name to the petition. Is there anybody in the gallery that wishes to add their name to the current petition? Okay, seeing none. Are there any landowners wishing to remove their name from the current petition? And next, council is to pick one of the following options. This is to accept the bid from Robinson Farm Drain and proceed with construction, not accept the bid and re-tender, or not accept the bid and stop the project. Should I read this out or he just aware of it? Okay. So there are three options available.
Sorry, Ed delay would just like. to-
Oh, yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, would it be helpful if I gave a brief summary? Perhaps where we are,
Absolutely.
so maybe a little background would be helpful for everybody, but it's nice to see the Triquares here, landowners who are present today. The petitioner is not here today. This is a combination drain that it is part section 78 for an improvement to an existing drain, and a small part of it, if you recall, is a section 4 petition drain. It's really just a road crossing. We're at a bit of a crossroads at this moment because the process was started in 2018. In 2021, I submitted my report. We were at the tribunal regarding assessments, if you recall, in 2022, and earlier this year, we got the decision from tribunal. We tendered it in September of this year, and we received 2 bids, both of which were above my estimate. So under section, I believe it's 59 of the Drainage Act, if we exceed 133%, we have to have a meeting with council, of course, to discuss with the landowners, basically to discuss, do we want to proceed and look at these options, as I'm sure many of you are aware. So Mr. Mayor has just said the 3 options there, and I'd like to just highlight maybe the pros and cons of each one. So the first one would be to accept this tender as is. So it's come in at 133.1% of my original cost estimate for construction. So the implications of that really are an increase in assessment for everyone. For my calculations, we had an original increase for the extra cost for the tribunal for my time and for the lawyer's time. On top of that, we're looking for the landowners at an additional 15% for each landowner of their assessment previously. The second option, and I should say there that many of you will know Robinson Farm Drainage, or a reputable contractor, someone who we would be very happy with doing this work. They have cited increases in material costs as the major source of the increased cost on their bid. And you can see that on a lot of the tendered items. The second option would be to reject the tender and re-tender it later. And this has implications also because if we do that, we don't have a lot of people that do this work. So we would be most likely eliminating this contractor from that list. And we'd be relying on hopefully getting a lower tender price from the remaining contractors. So that's a risk. And for that, the third option would be to stop the process. Again, that's council's option. It would be appealable to the referee because it wouldn't be following the act. We'd be veering off course there. So our recommendation is number 1. But of course, at the end of the day, I understand that the landowners are paying and they're looking at an increase, 15% here, an additional increase. So that's really the purpose of this meeting. And those are the options laid out for council, so be happy to answer any additional questions.
Thanks for that. Ed. Go ahead, Councillor Sharkman.
Thank you. So if we do cancel the project, there are still costs accrued for municipality and yourself, I would imagine.
Yes, so the majority of those to the council, the engineering time, and also some investigation that we've done to date. The time we spent at tribunal, so yeah, all of those costs, and we would most likely proceed then to a section 40 report, which would be additional letter report to award those costs. So.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you, Ed. So you're saying that some of the products that need to be bought and used in this drain, they've actually went up in price. I mean, we haven't seen that. I mean, we've seen your original report, but we haven't seen the one since, so. But yeah, that's what you're finding, some of the supplies actually have went up as well.
Yes, so
That's where the majority of the cost difference is. It's not so much in the labor or the process to do it, or the labor as well.
I believe, Deputy Mayor, there is. I've had a conversation with the contractor and the material costs were the major ones I was given. We've also spoken with the supplier. What he's told us is that the increase in Portland cement costs has gone up more this summer than in the previous 8 years combined. We saw, for example, on a lot of the tile costs, we were seeing upwards of 15 to 20% increase. There is an increase in labor built in there as well. Like the supplier was saying, maybe 10% increase for the product. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions of council? Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have any of the people on the drain opined on one way or another, sir?
Not to my knowledge yet, Counselor. Actually, I believe Mr. Van Miltenberg was in touch with the clerk.
And to address that, he was just looking at what the revised assessment would be if we were to go forward with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions of council? Councillor Sharkman.
So the original landowner who put this in
Mhm.
is not here, you said,
That's correct.
and does he want this to go forward?
I haven't spoken to him since the tribunal. I do not know.
He was provided the opportunity to attend tonight and remove his name from the petition as well.
So he hasn't done that.
No. If I may offer, it's an unfortunate situation, but this is basically what we're left with. It's a real option to retender the project. We have a second one that we tendered at the same time in Huron Kinloss, where in that case, it was even higher, the tender. So we are, in that case, we're suggesting it be retendered. But like I said, there aren't that many people, as many of you know, that do this work, so we'd be taking our chances. And at the real possibility, you get an even higher price after.
One more question.
Go ahead.
So if this project was to go through, when would it start?
The contractor provided September, September was the start date, between now and December of this year.
And if we retender it, we don't know when it would start, right?
Correct.
I am certainly no specialist when it comes to drains. That's why we have people on staff that are a lot better at it, but my assumption is that if there was a petition for it, there was a need to have the drain or have the drain repaired. I hate the idea of gambling and not being at least where we are and possibly being worse off. My faith in the fact that prices will drop between now and spring are not that high. Those are just my comments, because as I said, this is not something I deal with on a regular basis. But just from an outside view on the information that we've got so far, I'd be concerned about not going ahead with the project. At least we may not be happy with the price. We know things have gone up like crazy over the last few years. But at least we know where we stand at this point. We don't know where we stand if we start all over. Go ahead.
If I may make a suggestion, Mr. Mayor, maybe We could hear from drainage superintendent or the tripwires if they have any comments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that, if we were to retender this project with the, inflation trend as it's been going, we probably will not likely see a better, cost for the construction of this drain. And another thing to go along with that, it is planned, with this bid that this drain would get done in a short period of time where, if we retender it, we could be looking at a 2025 construction as well, with, depending on how busy they get and where it all lands on how they align their work for 2024 season as well. So
Do the other property owners, would you like to comment or not?
Roofing wall.
Councillor Fisher, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, to Ken. There would be less cost of crop damage as well, unless there's a bit of winter wheat.
that is
Wouldn't-
correct.
Wouldn't that facilitate things as well? Could go with number one?
That is correct. The landowners would all still receive the allowances that are given for that drain, but it would also be a bonus of the time of the construction for the year that there would likely not be very much crop damage at all. Corn is one of the last crops that are left on, and whether that's on those properties or not, I'm not 100% sure, but that is correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Chartran?
I couldn't hear what the gentleman said back here.
I think we're ready to go ahead.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Terry.
Get that?
I'm certainly not trying to fear monger. It's, those are the realities. It's an unfortunate situation. So, I hope I laid that out clearly for everyone. It's, I wish it was better. I was very shocked on tender day. Usually we get some better news, so.
Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the bid and proceed with the construction.
Option number one, and seconded by Councillor Fisher. So that is that the council of the municipality of Huron East accept the bid from Robinson Farm Drainage of $387,220 plus HST and proceed with construction for the Geiger Municipal Drain. Any final comments or questions? All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Number 8, any report, consent application C101. There's some notes for you.
This is this consent application, it's not a public meeting, so I don't know if this is a factor in the-
Welcome, Shay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Jeff. So this is for consent application C101 2021. This is for the Seaforth Golf Course property. Address 1 North Drive and for our principal golf course, and Caroline Baker is the applicant's file as well. Next slide, please. So I've included an aerial photo of the subject lands here with the proposed area to be severed, outlined in red, and the proposed retained area outlined in green. We're located just east of Egmontville and southeast of Seaforth. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this consent application is to separate the golf course lands from the development lands. This application was originally presented to Huron East Council back in January of 2022 and was then presented to Huron County Council in February of 2022. The file was then deferred by the county due to concerns raised regarding access, future servicing, and cost sharing of infrastructure. So since then, the file was deferred, the applicant has conducted a functional servicing report and traffic impact study in support of the corresponding official plan amendments to include the separate parcel in the urban settlement area, as well as the rezoning application to permit high density residential. Both of which were approved by council and are now through their appeal periods. The proposed severed parcel here is approximately 7.4 acres, consisting of vacant land, and the retained parcel is 91.9 acres of recreational land used for the golf course. No changes to the activities of the retained land are proposed as part of this application. Next slide, please. So the severed portion has previously been redesignated to be included in the settlement area and zoned high density residential. And the retained parcel will continue to be designated recreation and natural environment and zoned golf course zone and natural environment. Next slide, please. So just for reference, just as a refresher here, I've included the conceptual site plan that was submitted with the rezoning application. Sketch shows the proposed development of 62 townhouse dwellings and the location of the single access point towards the center there. There was a question previously regarding if there should be a need for an additional emergency entrance for emergency purposes. So I've confirmed that the single access is considered appropriate from an emergency access perspective. As per the National Fire Protection Association guidelines, which cites a threshold of 100 units or less, requiring just the one entrance. And the fire department has no concerns with the single access at this point as well. Next slide, please. So the application complies with the primary settlement area and consent policies of the official plan. And the OP directs growth and development to these areas, and the proposal seeks to make a more efficient use of an underutilized portion of the golf course. The severed parcel has previously been reviewed for the feasibility of and availability of water and sewer services, as outlined in the functional servicing report previously submitted. This concluded 2 different servicing options. As noted in the peer review, the servicing report, further discussion will be needed to determine which option will be exercised and the details of this. So a condition is attached to this consent to require the developer enter into a development agreement with the municipality to extend services to the subject land, including the provision of securities. This condition will allow either servicing option to be explored while also ensuring that the necessary securities and other required details such as technical drawings are provided to address the external servicing of the newly created lot. Next slide, please. So as far as comments received, no outstanding concerns were received from Kearney staff or other agencies. I've noted that additional discussions are planned regarding the specifics of external servicing. Several comments were received from members of the public during the circulation of this application. So several residents from the Bridges condominiums submitted comments asking about the nature of the proposed development. I explained the current proposal and provided the concept sketch that was submitted with the traffic study. 2 residents further submitted comments of objection in regard to the proposed density, concerns with traffic volumes and congestion, and potential for speeding and use of the emergency laneway that goes down behind the Bridges condominiums during construction. I provided some context on the traffic impact study that was completed to address the traffic impacts of the proposed development and explained that during construction, contractors would be directed to the single access point. And then upon request, the traffic impact study was also provided to the concerned parties for the reference. And then finally, a letter was received from a neighboring farm landowner requesting a condition be included that no restrictions be placed on their property for noise, dust, hours of operation, or other regular farming practices. I had a conversation with the landowner and explained that the nature of this request cannot be fulfilled through a consent condition. However, Ontario's Farming and Food Protection Act provides legislation that protects regular farming practices and also set the process for resolving complaints of this nature. This concern was also passed along to the developer's planner, who indicated that it could be discussed to place a warning clause in the purchase agreement, alerting purchasers of the close proximity to farming operations. Through various planning approvals required with the development, consideration of compatibility with the surrounding rural landscape has been taken into consideration. And I would also note that the proposed development does not directly abut against the farm to the east, providing some buffer room between the 2 different uses. Next slide, please. So just a couple of pictures of the subject property for reference. Next slide. And next slide. So this consent application proposes to create a new parcel to separate the development land from the remainder of the golf course land, with the consideration of future planning applications. Outstanding applications still include site plan approval and a draft plan of condominium, as well as development agreement is attached as a condition to address matters of tree removal for sightline considerations and details of external servicing. So as such, it's recommended that the consent application C-101/2021 is recommended for approval. I'm here for any questions, and I believe the applicant's planner is also online if there's anything I can't get through.
Any questions at council this time? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Shay. Shay, is there any room in there for planting of trees to help buffer sound like for the neighboring farm there?
I believe there would be room to accommodate that. That's something that could be explored at the time of site plan.
Yeah, I just wondered if it would help. So there is room in there, or does the golf course property actually come up into the corner of that field there?
Sorry, just to clarify, room on the, retained
on the
portion?
property that we're talking about today.
There is there is a hole between the farm property and where this development will be.
Right, okay.
yes, I believe there's about 85 meters of frontage that will remain as part of the golf course land in between the development and the farm.
Okay, I just wondered if there's an opportunity for that. Thank you.
There's actually trees there now, so I guess the question is whether they have to take them all out or not. I did have one question, and it was to do with municipal requirements. It's condition 3. I'm surprised because I was questioning whether we're consistent with this. The $750 in lieu of parkland. We're technically going to have an awful lot of lots here, and it's $750 for this parcel, where normally it's $750 for every new lot created.
Yes, so our standard practice is to require that per lot created, so at this time we're creating one lot. I believe we will have an opportunity to get more cash in lieu of parkland at the time of the condominium agreement and site plan,
Okay,
when there's more lots essentially.
thank you. Yeah. Councilor Charter.
I like the idea of putting in a sale agreement about the noise, to make the owners aware of the new owners, just like we did in Brussels with the Agomart there. That was a condition that when the people are buying, that they know they're living next to a farmer that
Yep.
does create noise by nature. I like that idea of putting it in the agreement of purchase.
Yeah, we can pass that along to the developer and encourage them to explore that option.
Councilor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to our esteemed planner. We're not worrying tonight about comments on access and sewage and et cetera, et cetera. That's to come later when we do site plan, et cetera.
Yes, so the specific details of sewage capacity and servicing and all that will be addressed through site plan and the development agreement. The development agreement at this time will ensure that there's a firm undertaking that the services to the lot line will be addressed.
Okay, and access, et cetera, that's for another time. That's not for tonight.
Access as far as the single access point that's proposed.
Yeah.
So we have had the traffic impact study peer reviewed by the municipal peer reviewer and confirmed that it meets all sightline distances and all requirements as far as that goes. And there's no concerns from that standpoint.
Okay,
So just to clarify,
thank you.
access will be off of Front Road.
Yeah, I realize that. That's my concern. Okay.
Only
Pardon me, Counselor?
one way in at this
Yeah.
point.
Okay, I'll wait till the site plan. Thank you.
Any other questions at this time? Can I get a mover and a seconder to accept the report here? Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councilor McGrath. that the council of the municipality of Huron East acknowledge the report of Huron County Planner Shay Stahl dated October twelfth of 2023 and has no objection to consent application C 101-2022, provided the conditions as outlined in the planning report are met. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. I'll leave it to you again, Shay, for C 62.
This is consent application C 62/2023. This applies to 43313 Front Road. And my apologies, it should be Tucker Smith Ward, not McKillop Ward, as I've noted there. The owner and applicant is Glenn and Deb Haney. My apologies. Next one, please. So just an aerial view of the subject property here. So again, we are just to the east of Egmontville and southeast of Seaford. Outlined in blue is the retained farmland, and in orange is the proposed severed residential parcel. Currently, it contains an existing residence and one single shed. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this application is to create a new lot under the surplus farm residence severance policies. The severed land is approximately 1.7 acres, within the house and shed, and the retained land is approximately 46.3 acres of vacant farmland. Next slide, please. So the subject property is zoned AG1 and NE2 in the Huron East zoning bylaw and designated agriculture and natural environment in the official plan. And the application meets all of the policies for a surplus farm residence. The house is surplus to another farm dwelling owned by the current owner, and the retained farmland has an existing field access onto Front Road just to the east of the severed parcel. I will note here that this residence currently shares a well with the property directly across the road, also owned by the same owners. The severed parcel is intended to remain in the same family and would continue to utilize the same shared well. However, there is adequate space on the severed parcel to accommodate a separate well, should this be needed in the future, and the owners are aware of that if the parcel changes hands, but that may need to be explored. Next slide, please. So just a couple photos of the site. So on the left there is the existing house, and then on the right is the existing storage shed. No comments or concerns were received from staff or other agencies. Conservation Authority had no concerns with the proposal. And as a result of the review above, the consent is consistent with the PPS, conforms to the provisions of the county official plan and Huron East official plan, and complies with the Huron East zoning bylaw, and is therefore recommended for approval with the attached standard conditions.
Are there any questions to council at this time? Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder to approve? Moved by Councillor Wilby, second by Councillor Fisher, that the council of the municipality of Huron East acknowledge the report of Huron County Planner Shay Stahl dated October 12th of 2023. There is no objection to consent application C 62 of 2023, provided the conditions as outlined in the planning report are met. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you very much. Number 10, reports and recommendations of municipal officers. The CAO request for proposal for corporate and community strategic plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we did receive 4 proposals for strategic planning process. This has been an issue that council's wanted to try and address, and as council recalls, we had chosen to take a foundational approach to it. So we've done our service delivery review, we did our economic development strategic plan. We're in the process of doing our communications plan, and we've got a version of our most current version of our asset management plan, which are all kind of key documents that we get into that. So we put it out in RFP. We got 4 submissions. Staff did review the submissions, and they scored Linden Consultant Services as the highest. They were the second lowest price, not much different than the lowest. And so staff are recommending that we retain Linden Services to provide our strategic planning process. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions of council? Do I have a mover and a seconder there?
Got a question.
Oh, sorry.
Just when, Mr. Mayor, please.
When?
Yeah,
When would it start?
yes, sir.
I would suspect probably the next couple of weeks, I'll probably have a kickoff meeting with the consultant. And then we'll reach out and start trying to set up meetings with the consultant and staff, as well as with council and the community consultation process.
Thank you.
It'll happen over the course of the next 3 months, is what I figured. Okay.
Can I get a mover and a seconder there? Councilor Beal, Councilor Wilby. That the council of the municipality of Huron East award the corporate and community strategic plan to Linton Consulting Services, Inc. All those in favor? And motion carries. Seaforth and District Community Center Group. This was a shocker.
Yeah, this would be a shocker. So, once we had the budget back in early May, I immediately went and started trying to determine what solutions were available for our roof replacement for the Seaport District Community Center. So we brought on board a company called Garland. They provide roofing systems to provide us some advice in terms of what the problems we have on the roof and what potential solutions could be. And then in the process of that, they recommended that we bring on a structural engineer to assess the existing roof to determine what of the options that they presented to us would work based upon what roof's there now in terms of load capacity primarily. They came back with the only option was to retrofit the existing roof with a metal roof, not a metal roof. Based upon that information, the procurement consultant defined a budget of about 1.3 to 1.6 million. So I know we had $1 million in the budget, is what we kind of put it as a stakeholder on that one. Truthfully, we didn't have any concrete evidence to give us what that number was. It was just sort of putting a number out there that we thought it would be reasonable. As we're aware, even with our Brussels renovation that we were, dealing with before, roofing costs have gone through the roof. Use the pun. So all we're really asking at this point in time is for council to give us the acknowledgement that we go out to tender, acknowledging the fact that we have an increase in the budget of 1 million to 1.6 million. And that we had originally planned to put a portion of that cost for the 1 million through a debenture. We'll just have to, depending upon what the tender was, the debenture amount. We are dealing with leaks in the existing roof now. So it's, they're only going to get worse. So sooner or later, we're gonna bite the bullet.
I'm gonna jump in with the first question, and I think it's reasonable because when we had the discussion with the community in Brussels and we asked them to put money towards their facility, they raised a very fair question was if we were doing work on facilities in other parts of the municipality, would we ask those local communities to help raise money also? And we said that is normally what we always do. Is there any plan to do any sort of fundraising drive to assist in this?
So certainly my only comment would be is that, fundraising drives are usually, successful when you look at it from a standpoint of something new level of service or new quality coming to it. Replacing an existing roof is a pretty difficult thing to go for a fundraising campaign. I don't know how successful it would be.
Councilor Sharkey?
Just a point too, clarify this for me, please, Brad. The new roof at the Brussels Arena.
Yeah.
Was not part of the fundraising.
Wow. I don't know. It's hard to argue whether it's part of the fundraising or not. It's part of the project.
It's part of the project, but getting municipality put the money in for the roof.
We put money in for the project. So I'm not sure we said, here's the cost for the roof. We didn't just add money just for the roof. We just said, here's the project.
Conversations that the roof was a separate part of that.
Yeah, I recall those conversations, but we never distinguished saying that the municipality would pay for the roof. It was, we'll put this portion of our contribution towards the project, and council did graciously increase the amount of contribution they were putting towards the project. But to try and say it was strictly for the roof, I wouldn't be able to state that. No.
Deputy Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, through you to either Brad or whoever can answer. Brad, is that for the whole roof? Because there was an addition put on there, much like what Brussels was, just what, 15 years ago or so?
It is for the whole roof, so I just kind of rolled all the different roof levels into one number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to CAO, please. It's a decided fact that it's gonna be debentured. When we put the debenture out, would you give us a comparison on a 10-year and a 20-year, please? What the rates would be and the difference in payments, et cetera, that,
We could do that as part of our budget process to find what the convention would look like and what impact it would have on the budget.
concern, my personal concern being that a 20-year you pay, with what the rates are probably gonna be, will pay twice the cost of the build and interest for at least 3 quarters over one time anyway. So I know it'd be an impact for 10 years, but the money you save in interest would certainly be used for better purposes. Thank you.
Okay, we can do that.
Councillor McGrath.
My taxes and I'm like, within the next 3 years, counting this year, the next year, are gonna be going up with $1,000. So I'm going from $3,000 to $4,000. We speak about debentures again. We're borrowing more money again. I think it's time we looked at. We have X amount of dollars in our budget. It might be for new construction, it might be for the fire department, it might be for whatever, but if something comes up, it has to be done. I think we should be looking at switching at the priority of the time. So let's say if we were gonna spend $1 million on roads this year, but this roof has to be done. I guess, in my opinion, the roads would have to wait the year to get this done. I'm not comfortable spending my kids into debt, but that seems to be what we're doing.
And I
And my
appreciate,
taxes are minuscule, like I've had other people, I mean, going up a whole lot more. And that's not counting what we've done with the pay equity and everything else and all the extra expenses coming that we've been hit with again before we even start 2024 budget.
I appreciate your concern, and this council will absolutely have that opportunity. Because when we do the budget, we can certainly set our priorities or pull anything out of the budget if we feel we need to. It's council's decision.
But we'll.
I want to vote around the table, Mr. McGrath. so do you.
No, not Mr. McGrath. I'm just, I know. It just, to me, we just seem to be borrowing for. Buying equipment and. Ventures, and I mean, it's. That's just the payment you're committed to. For a long time and something else, less you get done. And if we do defer some. Construction or whatever, whether we're gonna do this year, but it's gonna be the roof of the arena. Yes, you're gonna delay it by 12 months. But, I mean. It's not gonna affect any too severely, I wouldn't think, but that's my personal opinion, and I just. Every time I see, let's debenture, let's borrow more money, I'm just thinking of Justin and Krista. Freeland, so I'm really a little annoyed at that. So, anyways. Carry on, let's go in the hole.
I don't think there was anything you had to add to that, was it? Oh, we don't have a motion. Yes, we do, sorry. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the motion to the roof?
I just had a comment.
Go ahead, Brenda.
I think that we shouldn't rule out fundraising, because I think Lisa knows too how fundraising for pedestrian, fundraising for parks, fundraising for various things, and maybe we shouldn't rule that out.
I agree. I'm not the person to start one. I'm not sure how
I agree, it
We've never-
wouldn't be an easy thing, but
started them in the past, but we've fundraised for things before, and even the last time we did some work on the Brussels roof, thinking we had it fixed. Did we not raise some money from the community on that one? No. That was 10 or 15 years ago.
That was like quite a while ago. Patchwork, but yeah.
It was like, and I can appreciate the CAO's comment about the fact it's not something you see, touch, feel. That it doesn't have as much attraction to it, but we're not selling the fact that we're raising money for a roof. We're raising money to revitalize the facility is what it really comes down to.
Yeah. And you always see the thermometers in various communities. No fundraising for something.
So at this point then, could we just request staff come back with a report of a possible recommendation of how we could do a small drive? And what would be a realistic figure? Would it be 20% of the cost?
Portion takes it out of the taxpayer's pocket. I mean, I don't think it's something we shouldn't.
No, and
explore.
the reason I think it's a valid thing to do is because almost all of the money that was raised for the BMG was raised from the people in that specific area because they're the ones that use that facility the most. And I would hope that it's people in this specific area that raise the majority of the money that would get raised for the roof. Councilor Chartrand?
The only kickback that I've gotten on that topic is a lot of the public say it's municipal's building. It's your capital. It's your responsibility to maintain your building. That's the kickback that we're gonna get, and I've got that already from some people, so. I agree, if we can fundraise, fine, but it is our building and our capital that we have to take care of it.
And I don't disagree with that, with the exception of one point, is the fact that we've got more arenas in the county of Huron than are required to supply the services that are needed through arenas. So the bottom line is that there's no community that wants to lose the facility that they have. And so if they want to keep it, hopefully they will help pay towards the cost to keep it in their actual community. Because if we didn't have the arena up here, it's not that you wouldn't be able to provide hockey and broom ball and everything else that is done, but you would have to drive to another facility to get it. But if you want to keep it close to home, then you end up paying a little bit more for that convenience is what it comes down to. Were you making that a motion, Brenda, asking for a staff report?
I would make that motion, sure.
Okay, second by Councilor Gills. Any final questions or comments? All those in favor? And motion carries. And so now this was for the motion for the roof itself.
Fundraise for improvement on the community center.
I'm not sure how the wording might be, I'm sure.
Oh, we could word it.
Well, I'd like to keep them in separate motions.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So this one now is just for the actual report you gave and the cost. Mover and a second. Deputy Mayor, and Councilor Newell. So is there any other questions based on the report for the cost of the roof and that project? But that project wouldn't start till next year, correct?
Construction, we want to get it up to tender this fall.
Okay. Any final questions? Deputy Mayor?
Just a quick question for you to see, well, even we put it up to tender and let's say it comes in at 2.5 million or something. We don't have to accept it either, right?
No. Of course not.
At this point here,
No.
All those in favor of the motion? Motion carries. 10.2, Seaforth Industrial Community, oh, no, sorry, that was 10.2. Did I read the wrong one before? No, I did it. Ten point three, the workforce strategy. Yes, this is one where I'm gonna ask you to give a little more detail.
And it's purposely somewhat sparse in terms of, because I didn't want to go through the process of creating really complex and intricate policies. Until I had some sense whether council supported it or not supported it. So I'll kind of go through some of the different strategies so we had a bit of a brainstorming session with our senior management team to see the type of workforce strategies we could bring forward. Some of this was based upon a little bit of an employee survey to figure out kind of what they were looking for in terms of things. Certainly, you've heard lots of conversation about flexible work week, 40-hour work weeks, work from home. Those have been big buzzwords in the municipal sector for the last 3 years or so. And so that's kind of the approach that we're talking about in terms of flexible work weeks is really just simply that is. And even though some municipalities call it 40-hour, 40 work week, they really end up being flexible work weeks because not everybody can participate in a 4-day work week for either personal reasons, family reasons, whatever it is. So we're looking at staff to bring a policy forward that sort of says, here's what a flexible work week policy would look like. It wouldn't affect hours of service. It wouldn't affect anybody's work hours in terms of the hours that they're required to work on a weekly basis. And it would be on a department by department basis. So depending upon each department and each department head and how they can make it fit work within their department. It's going to be different for particularly some employees because some employees just aren't able to work from home based upon their jobs, obviously. But we'll make it so that it's available in some form, shape, fashion, or whatever it might be throughout the municipality. It's really meant to be more of a recruitment strategy. It's not uncommon for us to be asked on a regular basis during interview process or recruitment process if you have sort of a flexible work week process or anything like that, or work from home type strategies. We've kind of held off for the most part, waiting for other municipalities to kind of figure out, I guess, the gritty details. And so I think we're at that point in time where I think it's good for us to consider something. So that's the first one.
Can we just make comments maybe one at a time? Because I be a little less confusing, at least it will be for me.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with this one because at the end of the day, if the job is getting done and you can have the staff organized to make sure that there's adequate people in the office to serve the public when they come in, I was fine with that. My only concern was going to be when it was one department to another. I suspect that there would be some good opportunities for flexible work week with office staff. When you get into public works, that's probably a different story altogether, and they maybe don't have any opportunity at all to do things like that.
Yeah, and I can speak that a little bit based upon my past experience. So from a public works standpoint, winter is very difficult because of just the type of nature of what's the typical duty of the winter. But in summer, you can go into what's called a summer hour system where it actually works well, where the staff work 10-hour days. And then they either go a 9-hour day and they finish early on Friday or whatever it might be. And it's just, you still might have staff on call, but that's one option as a flexible work week policy that could apply there. The more difficult one is really struggling with when you get into recreation in terms of how you manage it from a recreation standpoint. That's the more complicated, more challenging one.
Any questions from council on the flexible work week portion? Brenda?
I just wonder what paid time off to volunteer.
We haven't got to that one yet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, flexible work week.
Yeah.
So is there a price tag for flexible work week?
No.
There is no cost.
It breaks even.
Well, there's no cost because staff are still working to get paid the same amount of money. They're still doing the same amount of work.
Okay. Then I like that one. There's no
Yeah.
I only recommended the ones that had no cost.
There's 2 other ones I don't like. That one I like.
Okay, number 2, technology supports reimbursements.
Yeah. So with the technology supports reimbursement, this is sort of just to kind of even the playing field a little bit, because I think in both council and staff at times are required to use their own personal technology supports, whether that's in-home internet or whether that's a personal cell phone, if the case might be, personal computers, if the case might be. So it's just that it's an opportunity to maybe kind of reimburse them a modest amount for that. I'm not recommending that for this year. It's something we can consider for 2025 because I'm trying to keep the ones that cost money off the table for 2024. But I wanted to bring it out for your attention just so that you're aware of one of those opportunities that we can consider.
Councillor Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would that be for every employee?
Yeah, it would essentially be for every employee, yes. And part-time employees would, I think I prorated it.
Actually, I think you said they had to have a minimum of 700 hours a year before they'd be considered.
So they had to at least work 700 hours to be prorated.
That's, to me, that's, I don't understand. Someone who is in public works out on a road, trimming or cutting or driving a machine or et cetera, would use the internet or the cell phone, et cetera, whereas somebody in who goes home and does work at home or something like that, or I can see a maybe, but this one, we have this, or I think they still have a county council, Mr. Mayor. I totally don't understand why on this one.
So if I can use your example in terms of, say, a public works employees then don't have staff out, well, they don't have corporate cell phones. And so they'll be required to communicate with their supervisors, whatever it might be, through their personal cell phone. You know, whether they're coming in, whether they're gonna respond to an event. That's how we communicate with them. Maybe they don't use internet per se, but they are required for the most part to use a cell phone to be able to get access to them. That would be the same for some recreational staff in terms of what they're trying to do, because we don't provide corporate cell phones to our recreational staff. In terms of our office staff, we're all required at different times to use our home internet. So that's sort of where that could fit into it. I mean, it's certainly not covering the cost of whatever that might be on an annual basis. It's a modest amount in terms of going forward to it. And it would apply to council as well, because you as council members are also being required to use technology support within your own home. And I think this technology support reimbursement should be considered for them as well.
I guess I'm still a dinosaur, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Well, no, I'm kind of on the same page with you, Councillor Fisher. I do think there's merit that if we've got public that. If we have employees that we need to contact on a regular basis and we don't have radio systems that we're supplying. And they're using their own cell phones, such as drivers or people that are doing construction. There's a little bit of merit that one. I agree with that. I disagree with the home internet thing, and the justification is this, is that we make concessions, allowances, whatever you want to say, so that we can accommodate staff to work at home when there's a need for them to work at home. And at that time, they're actually saving the cost and time of driving to work. So I think that should offset the fact that their service is being used at home. But from a phone perspective, I do agree with that part of it, is that if we're not supplying a method to communicate with the employees and we're phoning them on their personal phone, whether they're out on a construction crew or the arena workers or whatever, I can live with that part. I just have a problem with the other one. Councillor Chartrand?
I agree with one point, is like if I'm using my internet at home to do work out there, I don't have that internet there just for my work. That internet's there for my whole family and my whole home. Whether I decide to do work from home or work today, it's not costing me any more money than it's already there. You know what I'm saying?
I do, and maybe this flies in the face of what I just said, but technically it doesn't cost anything to use your cell phone anymore either, because you can call any place in Canada for free on a cell phone. But the bottom line is that I do appreciate the fact that if the employee has a cell phone, that we're able to get a hold of them. To me, that's still something that they've purchased, and you know what? Not everybody carries them all the time, and I've learned a few times by leaving it at home. I get a lot more done during the day.
I was just building on to your point that if you're allowing the employee to work at home, do their full job, their internet's there anyways, whether they work at home or not.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, they're saving gas mileage and wear and tear on their car, but not coming to work, so.
Go ahead.
We're not proposing these in the sense that staff are trying to be greedy. I'm proposing this as part of a workforce plan strategy. So this is really more to enhance our recruitment and retention ability. Right. So it's not me coming here with my hands open, wanting to hand cash to my staff. It's me trying to bring to you strategies to be able to attract and retain employees. I just want to make sure everybody understands the intent here.
And I do appreciate that, and I did understand that. I'm trying to look at the cumulative effect by the time we get a decade out of what it's costing us at that point. Councilor Grant, you had your hand up.
The comment is, you have a cell phone, you have a cell phone. Your bill's X amount of dollars a month. Whether you turn it on or you don't turn it on. I see it as a recruiting option, but to me, I think I don't agree with it. That's my personal opinion. For the sake of sounding cheap, but hey, what the hell, it sounds cheap.
Okay. Number 3, please.
Enhancement to health benefits, just so council understands, we're part of a consortium in terms of for current Huron lower tier municipalities, communities. There has been conversation within the consortium as well, hearing from their various employees. I don't think it's necessarily that we're looking to add particular health benefit services. It's just that those limits have been the same limits for a number of years, and inflation haven't been indexed for inflation. So there's probably some perception there that maybe some of those need to be increased somewhat. At the end of the day, it'll come down to what the consortium decides as a collective, that process. And so I'll likely kind of bring that forward at that point in time. I just kind of wanted to bring it to your attention that that's in the works. So we don't need to make a decision at this point in time. I'm not making it as a recommendation at this point in time, but that is something that staff in general have been asking about, and not just from hearings.
Yeah, I can say I do agree with this one, for partly because of the reasons that you pointed out about the fact that costs have gone up and the actual limits on those services have not changed. But the fact is that because it's ourselves and all of our neighbors at the lower tiers that are in the same group, we definitely want to keep it consistent, because the last thing we want is to be the only person not offering something and everybody moving next door. Yeah, I can certainly agree with this one.
Okay.
Number 4.
Okay. In terms of annual, staff annual swag, I've talked to, all my counterpart municipalities in Huron County, and some of them do actually provide sort of, modest different types of swag, whether that's as simple as, a travel mug, or whether that's as simple as, ball hats, something to that effect. That they've done it, the some of them have gone so far as actually, coats or jackets, and I think I've seen some staff and council around here historically have got shirts that say here, and I don't know what the reason for those being. There were probably some promotional thing at some point in time. But there's 2 values to it, I would say to it. One is obviously you're kind of giving some appreciation to your employees, but I speak more towards the standpoint of the branding process. And I don't need to sound like we're branding our employees, but we're demonstrating our brand and putting recognition of Huron East throughout Ontario, throughout the province, could go throughout the world. As people travel, go on vacations, things like that, if they're wearing a Huron East, people ask for Huron East, it gives a little bit of place recognition and name recognition. So it does have some value. It's a pretty modest amount of money depending upon what council wants to decide. Again, I'm not recommending it for 2024. Again, it's got a cost implication, so I'm just kind of parking it for now. But I think it's something that we should try to consider. And it could be done. One municipality actually went to the extent of sort of saying they had an annual Christmas party. When they consulted with staff were more interested in maybe having smaller little get-togethers than a Christmas party, and then maybe having some type of gift swag type thing as part of an annual thing instead of a Christmas party. So we could look at that as a whole process in terms of what staff might prefer over the course of next year.
Comments?
Answer any questions.
I do like this idea, because, yeah, we got the shirts, and I think we got the shirts prior to the plowing match being in here in East.
Jan Holly got it.
Was part of the reason, but I did think it was a little odd that we paid for them. So we buy our own shirts, well, with the East logo on.
Okay.
We paid
But I thought that was a little odd, but that's what was set up, so that was fine. We all did it. I do like the idea of, whether, I would say, everybody having a T-shirt that's got the municipality's name on it, a nice logo and stuff like that. is never gonna be a bad thing. I think you get more use out of that as far as people seeing it out in the community more than a coffee cup. And I do like the idea of some of the better gifts that you talked about, but I would say those get handed out when we do service awards, such as your 5, 10, 15 year stuff like that. I think any employee that's been here 10 years certainly deserves a coat from the municipality. And it would probably be walked with honor. If you've been here 10 years, you're not jumping ship all the time. And I think we should be happy to play with a coat or something like that. Councilor Neil.
Yeah, through you to Brad, is there a clothing allowance for staff currently? As an example, for people that are out on the road with high visibility clothing and stuff like that, and does that apply across the board for all staff? Like, is that safety wear, or is it? I don't know, that's the question I had, is if there's a clothing allowance already.
There is, and I think it is called safety wear. You got comments there, Barry?
I just want to make sure you're correct. It is for safety only to hide this. So you have to provide a receipt and it has to be the orange or the like the tape and that kind of with boots.
Okay, and then the question was, if you've got internal staff, like ones that are working at childcare centers or whatever, it's good to have them stand out with clothing that people can identify them as being, like, I mean, there's a name tag certainly you could use. Where I've seen it before is you've got high visibility for your grass cutting crew, but they also work stag and does and they show up with their orange shirt on. It'd be nice if they had a golf shirt for a wedding, you know, to do that. So it'd be neat if we could build that into some of the internal workers that they have branded clothing. Just to follow up to Council Newell's comment, is it would be really, I think it is important for us to make sure, and I think I spoke a little bit about this at one point in time in terms of the recreation staff, making sure that they're actually wearing a uniform that basically designates themselves as being Huron staff, with their name, Huron maybe largely in the back so that they're easy to recognize and identify. I think it's really important in the recreation. It may be so too as well in daycare. I will see the recreation priority. I think that's a good point. And that's where I think it needs to be for our standpoint, providing maybe a little bit of level of professionalism, but also more so to be able to identify that person from whether it's a security issue, whether it's whether someone's looking for something on an emergency basis, to be able to easily identify that employee. So I think that's something I'd like to do, sort of regardless, just from the standpoint, that's the right thing to do. But yeah, we kind of get into the clothing allowance, kind of the next piece, which is somewhat similar to it, and that's why they're kind of one after another. I'm just rolling with that one. Sure. Yeah. So in terms of, branded clothing allowance for employees, I have been in municipalities where through the pay equity process, and it didn't come up in our pay equity process, but through a pay equity process that, if certain employees are given clothing allowances for their work, that should be extended across the board to be fair and equitable. Not saying that's what I'm trying to propose here, but there's maybe an opportunity here to do something. And it's one of those things where people can wear something at work, could be whatever it is, if you're in the office, that you're easily identified as being a Huron employee. Again, not something I'm proposing for 2024, but something I might consider for 2025.
Any comments on that one? Okay. Scholarships and bursaries.
Yeah, this is kind of got a twofold value, suppose you could expand it beyond just employees, but I think the idea here is that we try to provide a benefit to employees, but I've been at places where scholarships or bursaries are sponsored by the municipalities for whether it's an employee or whether it's anybody in the municipality that attends a post-secondary education. Whether it's application based or automatic, depends upon what the pickup would be and how many numbers you'd be looking at. Where I'm coming from here is that sort of trying to drive interest into people going into fields that might be related to the municipal sector, whether that's engineering, science, recreation, finance, administration. Just to try to kind of get that connection with people and maybe push some people towards it in terms of. Because that's the biggest struggle when we talk about recruitment and retention, particularly recruitment, is that the number of people that are going into the municipal sector in terms of employment is just dwindling. For whatever reason, we haven't marketed it very well. I know all of our respective municipal associations of staff have been sort of focusing on this in terms of our ability to be able to market and promote municipal sector work as a career goal for people. So we're doing it kind of on an association level, and I just think this is another effort that we could do on a local level. So I kind of brought it forward.
Councillor Sharkman.
In line with that topic, where do we stand as a municipality with the student co-op program? How many student co-ops could we have in here learning the different things, as you said, that might, you know, give them an idea that I might want to do this in the future?
Yeah, I kind of talk about that a little bit later on too, as another option too, but I think right now, in terms of the number of students we have, I know Barry brings a student on every summer to help out in the water and public works department. And then I think this is the first time in a while that we actually brought a co-op student, I would call it co-op, but we brought a student in to help with record retention. In terms of that process for the summer. But
Doesn't the government help?
it hasn't been a summer. Well, we always apply for the government grants. We didn't get any this year. And I think most municipalities didn't get any. But we typically do it for all our students, whether it's our lifeguard students or day camp students.
Just, I agree with you to get them in here to,
Yeah.
you know, work to get a taste of what
Yeah.
municipal life is like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a product. I went through the co-op program and I'm a product. I actually spent my first 3 work terms working for a municipality. Right, in the public works department as an engineer, right? So great experience, great opportunity to understand how the thing worked. And you're not just that you're providing some value to the municipality in terms of the work that you do. So it's a value-based type system, but you're also promoting people to be interested. I didn't end up going back to that municipality when I graduated, but I know that my counterpart that was sort of on the alternate site with me, he did end up going back and working for that municipality. He ended up becoming their manager of public works. So I mean, it can work.
Yeah, I just thought I would bring it up with that, with the kind of went in with bursary, so.
Yeah, and it does fit in the same concept.
Councillor Morrison.
My only comment to Brad, I guess, would be, I can see from a public standpoint, how there might be concerns with like their tax money going towards somebody else's kid. So I think, as you kind of alluded to, the possibility might be more on an application basis if you live in the municipality, kind of opens it up to normal citizens, constituents, their grandkids, their type of stuff. And I think it would be a lot more easier for the normal public to kind of digest something like that, because it seems, I guess, from a public standpoint, that their money is just gonna go to an employee's kid and they get absolutely nothing out of it. But if it kind of opens up from a broader sense, you still get that benefit of it goes to municipal sector, but it's just more on a, everybody can kind of apply basis.
Sure. Again, I'm bringing these forward as employment recruitment strategies, right? So I'm trying to draw, attract, keep employees. So the more kind of perks you put in the pot, and if they're nominal perks, right? So, you know, they're just something there that might help retain an employee.
One thing I thought about this was that you're gonna need some sort of scale so that if someone started 3 months before their child was gonna graduate high school, that they just can't automatically opt into the program and get $1,000 grant. There should be some sort of scale. You have to be here amount of time. And I'm not interested myself personally in opening up to the general public. I think that becomes too unwieldy. And at the end of the day, even if it's just Huron East residents, the bottom line is now we're paying another school tax, and what it really comes down to at that point. I do like the idea of using it as hopefully a method of making them aware of the fact that municipalities offer things and maybe there's a career for them back here again.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I wouldn't open to the public at all. If your goal in this whole process is to try to retain or get new employees, then I would keep the bursaries just to the employees.
Right.
Period.
We got a lot of smart kids in this town, so there'd be a lot of money being paid out.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the same similar process at the Legion, but you have to be a Legion member to be able to apply for a bursary, right?
Okay, number 7. Subsidized wellness fitness.
Yeah, so there seemed to be a keen interest from staff to look at some type of subsidized wellness fitness plan. I'm not sure from a dollar perspective. I know wellness is an important aspect in terms of our employee health and things like that, but I wasn't sure whether this is something that we wanted to bite off in terms of providing a subsidy in a whole sense so that, you know, whoever could go somewhere. But I thought we could at least try it as a trial for this coming year in terms of offering staff access to the Van Astra for a fitness membership. If I recall, Lisa, comment that I don't think our fitness equipment is heavily used there. Certainly the pool is well accessed, but you know, that's something we could sort of consider. I don't think it doesn't really have an initial cost unless we start displacing other members, but I don't think we're at membership capacity. So thought that would be something we could do, at least whether or not we'll get much pickup on it, but we could try it for a trial year and see how the interest goes.
Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In line with that, Brad, if the staff could be made aware of what is available also in the, you know, the curling and pickleball and badminton and line dancing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
If they were aware of what's going on, that,
Yeah, and I think they're fairly aware of what is going on in our municipality. They're quite knowledgeable. I know we have staff meetings twice a year where the recreation department will identify the types of programs that are available to there, so we communicate fairly well within our staff. So we're kind of aware of the types of programs that are available. I'm thinking that people are looking for, you know, the yoga, the weights, the exercise room, the bikes, that type of thing. I mean, that's what they're kind of alluding to. And I think this is an option where, since we have a center with fitness equipment and it's used fairly low at this point in time, it'd be a great opportunity for us to provide a benefit to our employees with a little more cost, and we start making use of some of the equipment that we have at our center.
Councillor Morrison.
Through you to Brad for clarification. On the actual number 7 on the report here, it says recommendation for 2024. But the motion at the very top of the report doesn't include it in the list of 5.
Did I miss that one?
So I'm just looking for clarification. Is it a 2024 or?
I'd like to do it as a trial for 2024, so yeah, I'd like to amend that motion.
My only other comment is there is going to be some exercise equipment in Brussels, is there not?
And something, yeah, but that may not be owned by us. That might be a leased out arrangement. So there might be a private citizen, a private group that's basically running it, and you pay them the fee, whereas in this case, it's ours. It's sort of.
I see the merit to that, although I don't want to penalize employees that live in the north end of the municipality either. So if I can ask Lisa, what percentage, how much usage do you get in the pool area? I know there are times it's really busy, but like evening, is there a lot of adult evening swims, things like that, weekends, whatever?
Yeah, the pool is fully booked from 4 o'clock till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So, and it's well used and it's a combination of swim teams, swimming lessons, adult swim times, fitness classes, and then public swims, of course, as well, right? We do have to have designated sometimes for the public to be able to come in for public swims.
Okay, so
It's a little bit more popular than a public skate. But
yeah, so you're not really at this point searching for bodies for. The pool.
No, not necessarily for programming. The programming is relatively full, but at the same time, there's lots of room for more people for public swim. So if municipal employees and their families came to a public swim, there's lots of room for them to engage, as well as in the evening for adult swims too. So And again, like I've always said in my presentations, it's not just a swimming pool, it's, you can walk or run or, you know, play volleyball in the water, whatever you want to do, but there's, in those swim times, there's lots of room for extra people, for sure.
Okay, and the only reason I really bring that one up is I don't want to give the swimming for free, but I'd like to offer it as a discount because I've heard so many times that people had gone to the master pool and then when they were there, they thought it was great and then said, geez, why don't I have the kid's birthday party here on the weekend or something like that? Because they never thought of it because they never did it themselves before. And if you get more people like doing, there's a counselor at Blue Water, I meet with him once a month on one of the boards I'm on, and he thanks me every time for the master pool. He says they use it nonstop all the time.
And it doesn't cost the recreation facility any more for more participants in the pool, for a public swim. I mean, there has to be 2 staff there comfortably. If we ever got to the situation where we were we'd be over, say, 50 to 60 participants per swim, then I would bump the staff up to 3. But 2 lifeguards can, within the regulations, can guard up to 100 people. I would never let that happen. It's not fun, I'll tell you that. I've done it a lot and it's not fun. It's not even fun with 4 lifeguards with 100 people in the pool. But again, like like I'm saying, that to increase the usage for like the public swims or anything like that, it's not putting the rec center out extra staff wages or anything like that. And that would be the same with the usage of the fitness room. So because it's not instructed, it's an independent use room.
So if the idea is to get better usage out of our underutilized equipment, I think that's great. And if there's a way that you could come up with some sort of concept of how to give staff members and their families a break on public swims too, to get more usage in there. Because if it's not actually going to cost us any more, a crowd always draws a crowd. That's just a fact of life.
Just to be clear, I'm looking at it in terms of, the membership doesn't give them, it doesn't give them free access to the program. So they wanted to join, an aquafit class or whatever, they still got to pay a fee and all that.
That's right.
It's really just access to the pool when it's available for those sort of public open swims and the fitness center.
You say give them a good deal, Mr. Mayor, to swim, only costs $5.50 right now. To go in for an adult swim, so.
But that's all it is. So that's good. But I mean, the nice part is to say that when you are retaining and recruiting employees, to say that we offer a fitness program. Or membership to a fitness program. I don't say where it particularly is, but we offer it, right?
Yeah, right. We do, yeah.
Put in my car salesman hat on.
Gray area.
No offense to any car salesman.
Discounted daycare for employees.
Yeah, this one's a tougher one. I think it would always pose a challenge just because, we're already at capacity. We'd be pushing other people out. We could explore it from a standpoint that it might be a modest discount, whether it's 5% discount or something like that. The other aspect that, whether or not we want to get into the point where we're saying that staff, from the line type status, I mean, that's another way to look at it. It is a recruitment strategy, particularly in this day and age with daycare. Pretty attractive to an employee if they've got frontline status. Challenge, of course, would be what happens if that employee decides to leave and there's something child's already in the daycare system. Does that mean that they're automatically out of the daycare system? We'd have to look at that. It does create some challenges. As it is now, where we struggle even trying to apply the policy that it's Huron East residents get first sort of dibs at the center, just because of the location and busing and things like that. So it is difficult. This one, I need a little bit more time to think of how that would ever get implemented. So I would like to defer that one off, but I wanted council to be aware that we've looked at that.
Yeah, this one here, I was kind of surprised at when we're supposedly getting to $10 daycare.
True, good point.
You get 5% off, there's 50 cents.
Use it towards swimming.
I think the strategy here is that some employers, not necessarily municipal employers, are offering their daycare for employees, particularly in the public sector. In a recruitment effort to attract. Right?
Free use of Huron East EV chargers.
Yeah, again, something that only kind of popped up in my mind when I was sort of new, we had a vehicle charger here, we never got that one where we had employees that actually had an electric vehicle, as far as I know, I don't know any employees that have an electric vehicle as of yet. But if they ever did, it's something we could consider as whether or not they get use of that. It creates again challenges too, because we put that charger up there for the public availability, and if the staff members, let's say, for example, sitting here at work and got their vehicle charged and they leave it charged all day, then someone else can't use it all day long. So it does create some challenges, and it would be a bit of a policing effort. It's a nominal one, but I don't think I recommended that.
I can tell you right now, this is one I would vote against. For a couple of reasons, and I also voted in favor of raising the rates at all the electric chargers in the county. Because of the fact that, I don't think property tax dollars should be going to paying for charging somebody else's car. That was my personal opinion. Paid time off to volunteers.
So this is the one that Councilor Dalton wanted to speak a little bit about in terms of this one. So really all that's to say, I also can say I don't really remember where this came from in terms of where, obviously came from staff. But the concept here is that, if a staff employee wants to go volunteer at, I'm gonna pick on some things that probably aren't happening, but let's just say the Ag Society having their fall fair. They want to go help out during a particular day in terms of getting some setup. That we provide staff basically on a volunteer basis to go participate that one day a year. So they only go one day and they just get paid to go and volunteer. That's the concept. It's based on the premise that we're supporting our volunteer community in terms of how much they support us. It's sort of a tit for tat. And so I thought it's not a bad idea. Again, it doesn't have any cost. I think it supports the community in terms of volunteers. And if an employee is so inclined to volunteer, they'd have to make sure that they officially being volunteered, and we'll put policies together to make sure somehow that's documented and just using it for abusing it. So that's kind of the concept. Pretty straightforward, really.
Councilor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I listened to this one twice. And both times it was, how do you say there's no cost? When we're paying them $200 plus a day and they're not there doing their work.
Yeah, but it's no additional cost. Right, so if you give them paid time off, you're just giving them time off to go support the community. There's no additional cost. There might be some loss of production, I guess you could say, in terms of.
Yeah.
Right, so the day's loss of production, but it's to the value and the benefit of the community. And that's why I kind of mentioned that it needs to be to either a Huron East community volunteer organization or an organization that maybe regionally, but supports at least Huron East in some form or fashion.
Okay.
I would say, if we had a list of things that time might go towards, then might determine how valuable that idea is, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good idea. I know the recent Russell's Fall Fair, there was actually, I think there was 2 volunteers, one there from Trillium Insurance in Bristol. And they had a day off, paid day off, I think, and then we worked the whole day there. So.
Thank you. What would happen, the likes of the fall fair, if you have 4 staff members so wanting to volunteer?
Well, it would all be based on scheduling, so yeah, so I mean, if not, let's just say I'll pick on Stacy's department, but if Stacy's department all of a sudden they want to volunteer that day, well, it's not gonna happen, right? So you maybe have to rotate, or you have to figure out some other event, but not everybody can go to the same, on the same day. First come, first served basis, probably.
Okay. monthly employee recognition or appreciation program.
Yeah, I think this is something that probably everybody's seen somewhere in a point in time of their life, somewhere and somehow. I think it actually is something I think we should probably put in place. Even if it's just just that simple concept of recognition. It doesn't necessarily have to have a monetary piece to it, but a monetary piece sometimes is a good effort. There's a couple examples I'm gonna think about in terms of what's happened, I would say, over the course of the last year. So Lyle Hood, correct me if I got the right name, Barry. Lyle Hood was one of our public works guys, and during that winter storm event we had at Christmas, in order for him to be able to get at his truck and get out, he actually slept overnight at the hall, at the shop. Right, so there's someone where I would say, based upon his dedication, commitment to his job, he should be recognized for what he did, right? So for the month of December, Lyle Hood should have been recognized as the employee of the month, right? Whether you give him some stipend, a Tim Hortons coffee gift card or something like that, something modest. I'm not looking for huge dollars here, but I think to recognize on a monthly basis what some employees do over and above and beyond what their duties require. I think it'd be a good thing. The more recent one is the fact that, we're short-staffed in our finance department, and Tricia and Yolanda stepped up to the plate and covered off. Well, we had one staff or two staff off sick. So, I mean, there's another case where I say there's two people that I think should be recognized for what they've done. Right, so, and certainly we are doing it from a staff to staff kind of perspective, but it'd be nice to be able to kind of, put it out there a little bit, make it a little bit more formal and make it sort of a public recognition amongst all staff of this is what's happened, what these people have done. But I think we have a lot of really good staff and a lot of staff that go above and beyond.
And I agree, these small things mean a lot. Okay, monthly employee recognition appreciation program, that was that one, and now designation of Truth and Reconciliation Day as a statutory holiday.
Yeah. So when this came about, so when the day was actually created, I did have staff reach out at that point in time, and my immediate response was that no, it's not an additional statutory holiday because it's a federally recognized holiday. It's not a provincial statutory holiday. Therefore, we have no statutory obligation to honor it. It was brought up again by staff. It's sort of been floating around out there. This is the first time I brought it to you in terms of consideration. The only point I will make is Central Huron and Goderich have designated Truth Reconciliation statutory holiday for their employees. Beyond that,
My first question is it just a holiday or a paid holiday?
be a paid holiday.
Because the August holiday is not a paid holiday, but employers pay.
And we do.
Yeah, I know. Councillor Fisher?
No. We got, I'm sorry, as you know, I ran a small business for many, many years and there was 11 statutory holidays in that I lost $1,000 every one of them, and I just am not keen on statutory holidays, so I would say no for this one.
Sick leave pay.
So some staff have brought this up, and I've been at municipalities where where sick time is paid out on a 50% basis. So at the end of the year, if you've got sick time left over, 50% of it's paid out. That employer though had short-term disability coverage in terms of insurance. So in that case, it kind of made sense that we could do that. I was always sort of as an administrator, I've always struggled with it because on the one hand, it promotes the concept that people say, and I know I had staff at that time that were, not coming into work sick because they didn't want to use a sick day because they wanted to get paid half that day at the end of the year. So I was never really a big supporter of the concept. And sick days there is a benefit when we are sick. It's certainly nice to know that we've got that available to us. The fact that we're self-insured, not really self-insured, but that we don't have short-term disability coverage, and we roll it forward basically, and that's based on our existing policy, is that we allow people to carry their accumulated sick time up to 60 days to provide that bridge between when they stop work for whatever reason it might be in long-term disability. So I'm not recommending this one. I'm suggesting we maintain with what our status is right now. But I wanted to bring it forward for council just so that they knew that at least brought it forward for discussion.
As a business owner, I never liked the idea of paid sick days because too many people said, I've got 10 more days of holiday every year. I never like, I do like the policy we have in place, and I'm gonna say, our employees are really good. If they're sick, they get a day off pay. That's fine, not a problem.
Yeah.
But they don't abuse them and they don't use them all up. So
No.
I'm quite comfortable with the system we have in place.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, when we were in sort of that, we're in the midst of the pandemic, there were a few times where I had to kind of tell the building that were showing up at the office to go home. Because they're coming in coughing and hacking and, you know, and it's like, get out of here, go home, right? We don't need to get everybody in the office sick so that we're shut down. So not so much a challenge now, but I mean, it's sort of, it is a good benefit and people generally are using the good judgment in terms of how they, you know, choose to use it. And I don't think we have anybody that's abusing it.
Team building exercise.
Yeah, this one's, you know, this is something that I think we've always sort of talked about. It can be looked at from a standpoint of, you know, more of that social committee side of things. And we've sort of done some recent things in terms of kind of get-togethers on maybe on a more closer knit staff department type basis. But there are some municipalities recently that got into really bit more of that corporate team building kind of approach. Where they've actually done sort of team building exercises as a collective, the entire employees. They've done exercises in terms of, you know, whether it be some sort of training in terms of leadership, whether that might be looking at, you know, behavioral traits and how everybody has different lead characteristics, whether you're green or blue or yellow or red in terms of your strongest behavioral trait. They can be valuable exercises. I kind of want to look at it. I know some municipalities and I know some councilors, even within those municipalities, struggle with it. But one municipality, which I won't mention, did go to the point where they actually closed their office for the day, shut down the operation so they could have a day of team building for all the staff. And so they went through exactly what I talked about in terms of having sort of some fun exercises in terms of working as a team. They went through some formal exercises in terms of team building and leadership skills. And so that was the day, sort of doing it focused as a collective group together all at once.
I can add to this one. We had talked about, and I don't think we ever did it. Did we ever do a summer barbecue? I know.
Essentially, you're on this all the time.
I really think something like that is important. And you know, you rent the pavilion at the Lions Park here, and whether you're bringing your kids or your grandkids or whatever, and you come for the day, you got the splash pad there, you got the pool there, you got the ball diamond. I think, you know, council could cook the hot dogs and hamburgers and staff be there to play for the day. And even if we broke it up into 2 days, if that was more convenient to have half the staff come once and half the staff come another time. I think that is an inexpensive thing, but a good thing to do. Yeah, really do.
There's some other ideas I thought in terms of, I'll put my little spin on my bias because I'm sort of an ex-curler. So I mean, I always thought, you know, having some type of event where we did a bit of a curling thing with all the staff and council participating in terms of it. And the cost might be whatever it takes to book the, you know, local curling club, but it would be a good fun event, but it also gives some sense of team and a bit of social.
Yeah, 10 years ago, I
It's
had
a
to get
little
back
window.
up after throwing that rock. I'm sure I can anymore.
Trust me, it's never the rock part of it that gets sort of.
You use a senior stick now.
Yeah.
Pretty economical, $170 a day, tax included.
That's the Buckle Hall.
Yep.
Counselor?
Yep.
Or Buckle-
Get you the lounge too.
Probably get a better deal for the national one since it's our facility.
Good
Yeah,
point.
lots of different ideas we can explore, so that's sort of, I think I got that one. Justin's got me worried now.
What's this?
Yeah, it's on there, okay, thanks. This one probably gives you more consternation, but A lot of municipalities and private enterprises are actually moving to, most places, if you recall, it was always, you started out 2 weeks, and then as you move through seniority, you advanced. Huron East is probably, and usually it topped out at 6 weeks. Huron East is pretty unique, it's that we top out at 5. Right, so most municipalities and most private businesses actually have less additional, once you've been here a certain number of time, you get to a 6-week vacation. So we're sitting at that 2 to 5 range. So this one, I think, is an opportunity for us to be a bit ahead of the game. I don't think there's a lot of municipalities that jumped into us. I know Stratford's in the process of doing it. So I'm thinking it's an opportunity for us. So, you know, it doesn't have a cost. Council official will catch me on that one, and say it's a cost in terms of production. I don't disagree with that. But if it's an ability for us to retain an employee, I can tell you this much: when we lose an employee, the loss of production is far more than a week. So. It's pretty straightforward, but I understand how it's council a little bit of consternation.
I don't remember, was there a listing of at what stages you have it?
I think we kind of just up it across the board, so we started at 3 and then just add it to the week all the way up through the system, so that your 5th, we used to have 5, it would be 6. That's kind of how we apply it to the system.
So at what point do we go to 3?
Right from the start.
Council Fisher.
Thank you. Just clarification, Mayor, like you were doing, so a new employee gets 3 weeks up to 5 years or up to 10 years?
You're asking me to remember exactly what the policy is. I think it's either 4 or 5.
So then from 5 to 10 years, they would get a month?
No, from 5 to, yeah, then we get 4 weeks. And then I think it goes, the next step goes to 4 weeks. Right?
No, 5 weeks, 10 on would be 5 weeks then.
And then the final step would be 6 weeks.
After how many years, please?
I think it's, you're really testing me now.
Yeah.
I think it's once you go past 15, I think it is.
And they would. I don't know what it is now, but I would hope that they wouldn't be able to take, say 5 weeks, they take August, week in July and 4 weeks in August and ruin summer plans for other people. Is it kind of ranked what they can, when they can take the time?
We always try to encourage staff to take their time, take their vacation, so it's really always, vacation's always subject to the department head. So the department head has the right to be able to approve whatever staff vacation is, and that's gonna be based upon their consideration of what other staff are doing in terms of coverage and so on.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not automatic.
It's
So-
not based on seniority or anything.
No, so just because someone comes in and says, you know what, I got 6 weeks vacation, you know, the middle of July, the end of August, doesn't mean that Barry's gonna say, okay. Right, because he's gonna stop and say, okay, do I have coverage? Right, do I have enough staff to cover off all the duties in the summer? And then am I jeopardizing someone else being able to take their vacation?
I kind of lean towards this as long as there's parameters on that 6 week thing, when and. Yeah,
I understand.
and they can't be banked or saved. They, you don't use them, you lose them.
We have, currently our policy is that you're allowed to carry over, I think it's 2 weeks, 10 days. But you have to use it up by the end of June of the following year. You can't keep accumulating and carrying it over. But before you even carry over 2 weeks of vacation, you have to explain to your supervisor or your department head when you're gonna use those 2 weeks up. Right, so that it has to be sort of said, okay, I'm gonna carry 2 weeks over, because either I didn't have enough, I was too busy this year to take vacation, which isn't an excuse. But it still happened. And you've got to be able to say, I'm gonna take them here and here, so that the employee knows exactly where they're, or so the department head knows exactly where, that's the policy right now. We do let a little bit of carryover happen, but it's basically on approval basis only. And it's based upon having some commitment as to when that vacation is gonna be used, and then the employee has to kind of commit to use their vacation. So.
Thank you.
And we also try and accommodate whenever someone's got a unique opportunity, like going to Switzerland for a month or whatever. So if something like that comes up, we do our best to accommodate, because those are not everyday events either.
Understood.
Your co-ops, oh, sorry, was there a question? Go ahead.
Okay, but Jessica, that chart up on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty close. So that would move everything, basically would go from 15, 20, 25, and then 30.
That first year of service just stays same.
Yeah, it would still be prorated, but be prorated based upon 15 days instead of 10.
And this would start next year?
That's what I'm proposing, yes.
Thank you.
Subject, you guys approving that policy as it's sort of written there, being modified.
Co-op students.
Yeah, so we kind of had a bit of chat about this before, but right now we have, and kudos to Barry in terms of bringing in students on a regular basis to support him in his public works department through his water system. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to bring people through that system, give them an opportunity to see what public works is like. You know, those people those co-op students don't necessarily have to go into you know, into an office environment or a technology-based type part of the work. I think, very correct me if I'm wrong, you've had a couple students that actually end up working in your public works department as heavy equipment operators, correct? That's correct. Right, so it does provide a multitude of opportunity for recruitment in terms of different positions within the municipality. And so, you know, there's opportunities, and certainly I think there's work available in terms of all our different departments that we could task certain things to those individuals. I'll use my case as an example. I can remember that when I was retained as a co-op student for the town of Lincoln at the time, I went in and actually did a complete analysis of their sanitary sewer system in terms of flow capacities and identified where their sewer capacities were undersized, so that they could put capital plans and reports together for that. Right, so, you know, I'm providing a valuable service is something that they probably would have had to pay a consultant to do, but I was able to do that. You know, I did a full emergency 911 system for the municipality as well, because I kind of got seconded over to the fire chief at one point, and I did a whole 911 system for them to be able to track all their numbering of their houses at the time, and we're kind of bringing in that 911 program system in terms of call systems. So some pretty interesting tasks that you can learn a lot from. And so there's value to the student, but there's value to the municipality in terms of that employee. So we do it on a summer basis right now. What we're really trying to propose is, let's look at it. We can certainly look at it. You don't have to approve it today because we'll throw it in the budget. But I would like to think about certain departments, maybe bringing in sort of all year round type co-op students, and whether we stagger that between finance and public works and administration or something like that. We can kind of bring some proposals forward. I think this is probably one of the best things we can do in terms of trying to bring people in and make them aware and recruit them.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just making some notes. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, one of the things I think we should consider is that not all placements are also paid placements. There's volunteer internships as well. So that may be something that would decrease that cost or that estimate, because sometimes they need to get experience and they'll do it for volunteer. Yeah, the high school programs typically do have a co-op program that we could get engaged in terms of providing different avenues for them to work. So that's kind of that program. Most of the other ones through the different schooling universities and colleges is typically a paid co-op program.
Councillor Gill.
I was going to mention that they can get quarters, credits and stuff like that for doing different things with things. Through the high schools and stuff. Is that something that you'd look into?
Could look into that. I know, I know they can do. I think there's two different types of co-op programs. There's a co-op program where they just come in and do the volunteer thing. They come in for a few days, a week, or one day a week or something like that. But you can actually take someone who's looking, say, they want to get into heavy equipment operation. They want some experience and knowledge to working with the equipment. You can bring them in as a co-op student through the high school where they actually kind of get sort of a credit as part of a co-op program. My son went through that similar type of program with apprenticeship. But yeah, very similar, and that counts as a credit.
Was there any other questions at this time? Okay, I'm just making some notes here if you want to carry on, Brad.
I think that was the last one.
That was the last one, okay. So. Okay, so I'm gonna read what we've discussed here, so I will ask for a mover and a seconder that the council of the municipality of Huron to approve the following workforce strategies for implementation in 2024. The first one was the flexible work week, which was listed as no cost. The paid time off to volunteer, which was a loss of production, but not an increase in payroll. The monthly employee recognition or appreciation program, which is $600 to $1,000 for the entire year. And I think the consensus was that was a good idea. Team building exercise, and again, that would be covered under all the training costs that are already budgeted, so there's no additional cost to that. And the enhanced vacation pay policy, which again, there's no actual dollars added to it, but there would be a little less production for the extra time the person has off. But as it was pointed out, is that if they go someplace else that offers that, and because we don't, we're back to training and we haven't gained anything. So, and that staff develop policies for the above strategies for council's approval. The only other one was I kind of got the idea that the fitness plan was fine also, and that wasn't on the list here, so include that one also, please.
Yes,
Okay,
Meyer.
all right, so, those are the, although it was a long report, because a lot of things, these are the only ones being asked to be approved this evening. So can I get a mover and a seconder at this time? Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by, Councillor Wilby. And if there's no other questions, all those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Okay. And the policy for annual cost of living increase.
Yeah, so. I'm trying to get to the report here. So based on some conversations we had previously in terms of cost of living adjustments. So the way our policy is right now, the personnel committee is authorized to provide the cost of living adjustment up to the Ontario August to August cost of living index. And if they want to increase COLA any more than that, then it comes to council for approval. So this is just maybe a little tweak to that. And what I had mentioned to council previously was some municipalities had put a cap on their cost of living. And I don't think the cap was intended to punish employees, but more to help buffer if there was ever a significant inflationary increase. So that they could sort of buffer it over time. And so what I proposed here, and certainly willing to, modify if council wants to do, is just to basically put some type of cap. I propose 4% at this point in time. And that the gist of it is that if the cost of living based upon August to August for Ontario is greater than 4%, the personnel committee has the authorization to they can increase it just 4% and cap it. They can go to the cost of living adjustment rate, say it was 4.5. They could adjust it to that, or they could recommend something more if they wanted from the council, and council could then consider it. They're kind of trying to leave that authority still within the personnel committee. That's my intent, trying to kind of maintain kind of the status we had. So the best way to sort of say how that would work, and I've given you some examples here. So if August to August CPI was 4.5%, the personnel committee could do the following: cap COLA at 4% and carry 0.5 forward to a subsequent year, or set COLA at 4.5%. Okay, so those are all those options in that example could be set and approved by the personnel committee without having subsequent council approval, because they've been delegated that authority. The second example there says that the August CPI is 4.5%, but there's a 0.5 carryover from the year before. The personnel committee could do the following: cap COLA at 4% and carry 1% forward now, because you're accumulating a half and a half, right? To the subsequent year, they can set COLA at 4.5 and continue to carry 0.5%. Or they could set COLA at 5% and eliminate the previous year carryover. That's another example. And the last example, I know this is a little bit extreme, but I was trying to demonstrate that that was an extreme situation. If the August CPI was 7.8%, the personnel committee could cap at 4% and carry 3.8% forward to a subsequent year. They could set COLA obviously at 7.8. They could set it at some arbitrary value in between. I used 5.9 and carry 1.9 forward. Yeah, the difference is there. The committee would want to recognize the fact that if they carried something as significant as 3.8% forward, it could get the point that it might get that carryover could become very significant and be a fairly big impact. Because the principle behind it was to say that under the policy that I proposed is that you try to recover those that carryover within 2 years. Right? The whole gist is you're trying to keep your employees compensated fairly competitively. So you don't want to lag too far behind in terms of how that COLA adjustment happened, because if somebody else is doing something different, then you're starting to lag. So 2 years was about as far as I thought we could go. That's kind of the principle behind it. I know we talked about some other things in terms of compensation policy, so I drafted a policy here simply to put some context to that. So the first one is that annual job reviews and if necessary evaluations are completed. Job description evaluations of all new or modified jobs are completed. So this is us trying to maintain pay equity. Market compensation surveys every 4 years, so we don't get too far behind in terms of our market competitiveness. And the application of COLA cost of living increasement adjustments to wages. And then I explain what that approach would be based upon the rest of that, which I won't go through and read. So happy to have any conversations with it. We can maintain what we're doing now if that's what council wants to do. But I know you expressed some interest in looking at what a cap approach to COLA would look like.
I had a different example. My example would be, the personnel committee can put it at 4%, end of story. They don't even discuss the carryover year to year for a couple of reasons. One, if we had a year like last year where we knew 4% was not adequate or fair to give to the employees, the personnel committee could still always bring that recommendation to council. It doesn't matter what the policy is, council can vote another number. I'm gonna say in the last 20 some years that I've been sitting at this table, I think there's only 3 years that we had to go above what it was, or there was any need to. And when council recognized that it just wasn't adequate, we didn't have a problem doing it. Now, even though we only did cost of living, I realized that ran behind. But to go along with the other policy that we do a market check every 4 years, we always have that opportunity to balance things out. So we're never going to get too far behind. And I'm more than confident that if we had another year at 8%, even though the personnel committee has authority to grant it at 4, they would not just leave it at 4. They would come back, and any member of council can also raise the same issue.
If you wanted to create the cap for, right now, we don't have a cap, so you guys basically go to whatever the cost of, so the personnel committee right now has the authority to go to whatever the cost of the CPI is for August to August. So I'm just proposing a concept of a cap there to kind of buffer the impact to the budget.
We used to have a cap. We did have a cap at one time because it used to say cost of living up to a certain percentage, but that percentage was a lower amount, and putting it at 4% now, just because of what we've seen in the near past, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I don't ever remember a cap in my 9 years, but correct me if I'm wrong. Even if it was 4%, we're not obligated to give them 4.
Oh, no.
At all. I mean, there was some years where inflation came in at 2 and we said, give them a 1% or 1.5. I like the idea of a cap, but this rollover and carryover makes it a whole lot of confusing. If you're gonna have a cap, you take a cap, you stick to it, and then, as the mayor said, we have a year where it's really high, then we bring it back to council.
Yeah, and I also know of an example where a year where it was only 1.5 that it came through, and we said, let's get to.
We gave them
Yeah,
2. And also too, COLA really doesn't have, you can't equate COLA and pay equity. is when you do your market check, that's a whole different thing. They're two separate entities whatsoever.
Yeah, they are distinct. You're absolutely correct.
But we're hoping if we stay consistent with the COLA, we wouldn't have as big a jump when we do the pay equity.
Yeah.
Councillor Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Chartron. I would like to see a cap on it at 4% or I'm comfortable with 4%. I don't like the idea of the personnel committee making the decision. I think all of council should. And I really have trouble with giving 4% raise or whatever every year to people making 60, 70 and 80 bucks an hour, that I wonder if there's some way to do that every other year. As Mr. Erb said earlier tonight, there's half of the population of Huron County doesn't make a living wage, and we're giving people well up on the sunshine list raises every year. I have a problem with that, and I've forgotten the last one, darn.
If I can respond, I do understand the optics when you use a percentage on a person's pay. But if we don't follow that process, then we don't follow the guidelines for pay equity also either. So you can't do one without the other. Unfortunately.
May I have a rebuttal, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've often wondered if our I guess management team would be the description, if they should be in a different on a different page in the pay equity book then, or something like that, if there could be some.
I can have that discussion and inquire. I do believe the CAO's position can be kept separate. I'm not sure about department heads, whether that can be a separate category or not. And I do believe there are some rules in the regulations that allow things like that. But in all honesty, if you've got a department head you've had here for 15 or 20 years, for the difference of a couple of percent on their pay, are you willing to lose them and try and train somebody else?
This is where I wonder, anyway, I won't discuss it. That's what I think. I wonder if there could be some every other year instead of every year, that's all.
I'll go to Brett to respond.
So I think the biggest point there is that if you institute something like that, then what happens is you end up getting into inequity in your pay grid system, right? So now it becomes inequitable, because if you say your top salaried employees, you're gonna say you're not gonna give them increases, then your bottom employees start kind of creeping up towards them. And then what happens is your top employees, what they're not being paid equitable for the work and responsibilities that they're required to do as part of their roles in comparison to the people that are getting the COLA increases. It would totally disrupt your equity, totally disrupt it. So I mean, you have to apply everything uniformly across. You can't be, selective in how you do the process. So I just want to make it clear, I'm not suggesting that COLA is going to be 4% every year. Right, caps 1%, right? It's 1%, that's what you put through, and then it's only when it goes above 4% that you're going to be that cap's going to come into play.
Deputy Mayor, you had something?
Oh, just a comment through you to the CEO, Brad. So the market survey, is that a 4-year term or cycle? Is that kind of typical?
Yeah, that is.
Okay, yeah. Just wondering whether or not that was too long or not, so.
Well, it's pretty typical. Some people go as far as 5, but I sort of thought the flavor you guys were having was kind of try and keep it in that, 4 range.
Yeah. Brad, just for clarification, I think it said here that the personnel committee could approve. But I think the bottom line is that just to minimize the discussion, unless there's a need for something different, anything up to 4%, as long as that is the COLA, that would be the recommendation from the personnel committee to council, because it is council as a whole that has to approve whatever the raises are, is it not?
No, way your policy is written right now is you delegated that authority to your personnel committee.
I'm really surprised then, because I thought the personnel committee always
Advised.
made the recommendation to council, and then council would just vote and say yea or
That's
nay.
how we've done it.
So the way it's written now is that your personnel committee has the authority to go up to the cost of living based upon what the CPI is from August to August. And if you want to recommend any more, so let's use your 1.5% going to 2%, that's when you had to bring a recommendation to the council. That's the way your policy reads now.
And you know what, it's not that I don't have faith in the personnel committee, I don't like that process, if that's actually the way we have it written. I would like it still to be a recommendation, because I think it's this entire council that should be aware of what we're giving and having an opportunity to speak if they want to. I do not recall any time in the past that the personnel committee made a recommendation and just gave a quick statement of why they did, that there was any problem with the council. But I feel more comfortable with all of council being aware of that number, so I'm gonna ask that we just add that to the policy.
I'll do, yeah. So I just want to kind of understand a little bit in terms of what the direction they've got here, so I can bring a policy back. So we like the cap.
Yeah,
We don't like the carryover piece.
right,
Exactly. Right, keep August to August, but you want it all council, the committee can make a recommendation to all council.
yes.
Okay, I got it, I think.
Yeah, and that way, if there's a need for the committee to recommend 6%, they can give their explanation to council.
That's good, thank you.
Well, I need a mover and seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Deal, second by Councillor Morrison, that the council of the municipality of Huron East approve the compensation policy as presented. As discussed, that would be better.
Yeah.
All those in favor? And all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion carries.
6 to 5, Mr. Mayor?
That's correct. No, 6 to 4. We're missing
6 to
one.
4, Mr. Steps, Councilor Steps. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
10.5, request for pre-budget approval for firefighter personnel protective equipment. It says AKA bunker gear. Your request is in there. I know I have one question, Deputy Mayor. Was this the one you wanted to?
Well, wait, if you want to present this.
Okay, were you presenting a report or was just there to read?
I didn't have anything more specific. I can go over, I'm happy to go over it if you'd like. But I might just want to make sort of a general comment, kind of what stemmed this coming forward.
Sure.
This really kind of got driven from me kind of going to Kent and sort of a strategy in terms of process. So one of the things that happened when we attended the C4 Fire Department in terms of the meeting that we had with the firefighters and the chief and myself. And it came to our attention that they were concerned about the fact that they had 9 sets of gear that were bunker gear that were expired. And we typically try to go in there, and I forget, Ken, how many we propose to do on an annual basis for? Roughly 10%, yeah. So we do about, 3 or 4 type of bunker stations. So it really came to me is that we've got bunker gear that's expired and we're never gonna catch up if we keep going at 4 per year or 2 or 3 per year. So I said, let's just put a plan together that we can say, let's get all the bunker gear that's gonna expire, that is expired, or it's gonna expire in 2024. Let's get it all ordered in one fell swoop. Let's get us caught up. Let's make sure all our firefighters have the proper gear going out. And that's kind of the premise of this report coming forward to council. So we're really trying to say, let's bring what budget we have in 2023, which isn't enough. And then add some more money into 2025 to get our bunker gear caught up. So that we're at least at a state where now we can sort of keep moving forward, kind of that mindset of replacing bunker gear. But surprise to me, I think it was surprised that I think some of the councilors were in attendance. I think they were surprised the fact that we had that many bunker gear that were expired. I know the chief was surprised. That's the premise of the report, so that's, I just want to make sure that's clear.
Okay, Councillor Chartrand?
So this bunker gear request is for just C4 or all fire?
All the fire, all three fires.
All three, okay.
Councillor Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Kent, I guess, or to Brad, the gloves and, I never say this word properly, balaclava. Thank you. Would they not be CSA approved when they were purchased by the departments?
They'd be NFPA approved. They run off the NFPA standards. So yeah, absolutely, they would be, under that approval.
So then your proposal is to replace them all for everybody.
The balaclavas, not gloves would be as needed. The balaclavas, and the only reason I'm recommending doing a full replacement is because there's new technology that we haven't bought. You can still buy the old technology, but there's new technology that's it's a health and safety thing. If they're cancer particulate blocking hoods, so they have an extra layer in there because the neck and the face is part of your body that absorbs carcinogens the most. So under the new technology, there's better hoods out there. Under new cancer prevention program that the Ministry of Labor has brought out, one of their recommendations within that, I think there's 82 recommendations. One of them is to have a hood swap or a balaclava swap program. So when you go into the fire, you come back out, you change your air cylinder on your back, you change your hood, go back in with a fresh hood, so you're not keeping that contaminated hood against your skin any longer than you have to. That's the thinnest layer above their personal protective equipment. So that's the reason why I'm recommending a full replacement. And it wouldn't be a replacement, it'd be an additional balaclava. So they'd each have two. They'd have one with the new technology and one of the older technology. And everything else is as needed as it's expired.
Okay, then I wondered about these expiry dates. Our equipment, I would not think is used as frequently as London or even Stratford or the big cities where they're used continually. Is that not taken into consideration usage? Or is it just a line? After 10 years, it's garbage?
Yeah, the NFPA standard doesn't have any, and you're not the first one to make this argument, that's for sure. There's no usage, average calls per year, anything like that that's within the standard. It's just a flat 10-year standard of that's when the personal protective equipment no longer meets the standard.
And helmets, the same thing?
Everything, yeah, everything that they wear is their personal protective equipment, helmets, balaclava, the coat, the pants, the boots, the gloves. It's all on a 10-year lifespan. It's all the same NFPA thing.
What is so special about these helmets that they cost $600? That's just my own interest.
Yeah, the price of everything has gone up drastically in the last few years, that's for sure. You're probably looking at double the price as it was 5 years ago for probably everything on this list almost, but I couldn't tell you as far as what's special about them.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you or to Ken. Ken, thank you for the report. It's very thorough, so it is. I just want to go back to the helmets. There is an expiration date on helmets.
Yes, they meet the same NFPA standard as the rest of the equipment, so that's all captured under the 10-year lifespan.
So the 20 helmets, you got 20 here. Where are they going, or are they going to be dispersed throughout the 3?
They would be, so the C4 station had bought all new helmets earlier this year, so they're all good. So that would be dispersed between the Brussels and the Gray station, as well as there's 6 in there for new recruits that's included as well.
Yeah, and boots as well. That is another thing too. There's an expiration date on them as well.
Yeah, they're all it's 10 years.
Because talking to some firemen, they well over the 10 years that they're still wearing the same boots. So
yeah, that's part of the issue. Yeah.
The next thing I was going to ask you about in your report there, you talk about 6 new firefighters that you're getting new equipment for. So you've got 6 new people in the pipeline?
No, that's just anticipated for next year because we were just trying to do this to cover all
2023 and 20. So it's anticipated.
Because I thought with the bunker suits, I thought they had to be measured to fit.
Yeah, absolutely. They wouldn't be, yeah.
And I don't know how you're ordering new suits for somebody that you don't know how big they are.
They wouldn't be ordered until they were,
We're gonna include them in the request for pricing.
yeah,
But then when we'll wait until they get sized.
yeah, the specific measuring would be done once they're here, for sure. Yeah, you would never order that ahead of time.
And I guess my other comment, just to kind of follow up on that, like talking to some of the district chiefs. They very seldom ever get new PPE or bunker suits for new recruits. Because even though they go through extensive training, most of it's just book training and stuff. But that first time they're either on emergency, but a full blast of heat coming from a structure fire, or they show up at a car accident. Sometimes they just say, that's it, you can have it back. And I just worry about giving new recruits all new equipment. When you might have somebody on your staff that's been there 15 years, that maybe some of that equipment could be recycled back to them, that's all.
Yeah, it wouldn't be ordered until they were finishing their recruit class, but they have to be in proper gear before they're allowed to be in that first fire. You can't have them in old gear and then have them experience that first fire without it. It wouldn't be, wouldn't meet the health and safety regulations.
Yeah.
But it's not something you're gonna order them on their first day by any means. That would be later in their recruitment training that, you're confident that they're gonna be there, that you're
For sure, but I wasn't, saying that you would want to, a new recruit in some dated equipment either. I guess I was looking at maybe some equipment that wasn't dated. That one of your regular firefighters that you've had on staff for a number of years, maybe he's ready for a new set. Or maybe his is only at 8 years or something, where somebody could get 2 years out of it as a new recruit. Without spending that extra money on somebody and having them block, because it could be a small person like myself, height wise, or a tall person like yourself. And I just kind of hate to see us with new equipment and hanging on the shelf there for a number of years.
No, understandable, yeah, and you definitely do utilize any gear that's still within its date during the training of the recruits, and then it could be to get them started. That is utilized as long as it's proper fitting. You just have to ensure that it fits them properly to make sure they are properly protected.
Yes, for sure, so.
Okay, the motion is that the council of the municipality of Huron East pre-approve the amount of 95,000 in the 2024 budget for firefighter personnel protective equipment prior to the 2024 budget being passed. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that motion? Moved by Councilor Newell, second by Councilor Wilby. Any further comments or questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor, through you to CEO or to Kent. So will this use up all our equipment budget like for next year as well? This dollar figure?
Certainly in terms of the bunker gear. So we had money set aside for bunker gear between this year. So we're just basically trying to set aside our bunker gear.
So this is $40,000 from
This year.
For this year.
Added to the 95 for next year that we're proposing.
Okay,
So the total amount.
so then no more bunker gear than for next year then at all then, right?
Because everybody, we're trying to get everybody that's expired next year, right? So
Catch
everybody that's expired, plus everybody that's expiring. And so we have enough money there to get gears where everybody's good till the following year. Because every year we typically try to buy some gear, but I think we've got behind, so we need a little catch up here. And then we need to get back to that, 3 or 4 per station per year.
I guess where I'm showing the problem is with the 6 new firefighter equipment that we're buying that we don't know who they are.
Well, we're only buying from a standpoint that we're getting the supplier to price them. Right, we're not gonna order them, like they're not gonna deliver them, because everybody has to be fit and measured.
Yes.
Right, it's just basically saying, we're gonna buy this amount of bunker gear from you in the course of, the next few months. But these 6 will be sized at a later date.
But we're not buying them right now, though.
We're gonna buy them right now, but we're not gonna size them.
Oh, so you
order
ordered
them
them
right now,
going to
not
pay for the other 6 uniforms.
Yeah.
To get current price.
Yeah.
I see. So we'll have 6 waiting for us whenever we give a size to manufacturer.
That's an assumption. I think Kent's using is 2 recruits per station.
And sorry to interrupt, but then my follow-up was, you talked about the 40 we had this year, and so we're topping it up with another 55 for next year. All the spreadsheets that were shown to us, and I don't remember all the numbers that were on there, was 55, what was in there for the equipment?
40. There was 40 for every year.
So we're 15 ahead of what actually was going to be projected for next year's budget.
No, we're actually.
We're adding 15.
We're actually looking for 135 for the 2 years. So if 40 comes off of that, we're actually asking for an additional 95. So we're going from 40 to 95 in 2024.
You've already used this year's 40?
Forward. So if you look at my table there, I don't know, so the total cost of buying all the gear that we've got there listed in terms of what Ken proposed there. And how much Valhalla, gloves, boots, bunker gear, it is roughly about 117. I threw a contingency in there just because I didn't want to be over budget. So if we say it's 135, I take 40 off that we already budgeted in 2023, that leaves me 95,000 that I need to put in 2024, which is what I'm looking for the pre-approval of the amount for 2024.
You had already proposed 44,
But I've already taken it off. the
24.
I've already, yes, and I've already taken it off the 135, so the difference is 95.
Oh,
We need about $130,000 worth of bunker gear.
40 this year, 40 next year's 80, so we're looking at 55 more.
And but I've got a contingency on there, right?
135.
Right, so you got 40, so take 40 off 135 is 95.
Yeah, and then you take off 40 for next year, so it's 55.
You know, well, sure, but I'm increasing your 40 from next year up by 55 to 95.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
But all I'm saying is I need 95,000 in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which 40 of it's budgeted in 2024 already.
Well, we haven't approved 2024.
Forecasting.
Okay, fine.
Councilmember Grass?
So we had 40. And we had 40 budgeted next year, but you want to add $55,000 to next year's budget plus the
Yes,
40.
Sure,
That's what you want.
sure.
There you
But you guys have not approved 40 next year, so I need
No.
95,000
Yeah.
approved for 2024. That's what I'm trying to make clear.
Can we split that hair any more ways?
Oh, yeah.
I agree with Councilman Cullen about buying 6 suits. At these prices for firemen, if you don't. Yeah, but that kind of decrease that 95,000.
Sure, it can reduce it, but then what do you do when you hire recruits and you have to buy bunker gear? Then now you're gonna pay a premium price because you're gonna buy them separately. And that's what I'm kind of trying to do here is get some premium pricing because we're buying such a large quantity. That's the value I'm trying to put here.
Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to wrap up, basically, or to Ken. A new recruit takes about a year to get through the system, right? So we
Yes.
won't need these for a whole year.
Well, they need to do live fire training as part of their recruitment. And again, like your point, depending on their size, if we have actual gear for them to complete that training or not, we don't know until we hire them, right? So if we didn't have a budget for it and we hire someone that's, doesn't fit the gear we currently have that would keep them safe, we would have to delay their training until the next budget year when we get that approved, and then another 4 to 6 months of order time and things like that. So it could really slow down the process and hamper.
During one of the exercises held in Brussels there, I think you mentioned the fact that you could possibly rent.
Yeah, it's an option.
So I was just thinking, rather than spending, because basically it works out to close to $5,000 a firefighter.
Yep.
So we're spending money for people we don't have, whereas which they are probably a year away. So I'm just thinking maybe we should just keep the money, and just knock our budget down a little bit. Until we have them recruits in mind.
You're guaranteed you're gonna have the recruits. There's just no way around it. So I would recommend keeping them in there because you're gonna need to outfit them and it's just gonna add on to the 2025 one.
Councilor Sharkey?
Just so I understand, so we're gonna we're gonna get a price on these 6 extra. But we're not gonna actually purchase them. And this vendor's gonna be able to hold that price.
No, we are actually going to purchase them. So let's say it was 12 suits in total.
But you're not gonna take them.
But we're not gonna take delivery until we have a firefighter that we can give dimensions.
Which could be a year away.
And that's when you pay, when you take.
But you pay it when you pay it when you take it then.
Yes,
Oh, we don't have to pay for it till we take?
the delivery, yeah.
Oh, I misunderstood that then. Okay, so they're willing to give us a quote on a larger volume, provided we take it within the next year or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not realize that, sorry, my mistake.
Okay, I understand now, thanks.
Counselor Neil?
After you to Ken, I know that you've got you used a drastic example in here where you've got equipment that best before date is 20 years ago. And that means that firefighters can't respond or go into a scene if they've got outdated equipment. Does that happen on a regular basis then? Like how often do you run into a situation where your equipment's 20 years old, you can't fight this fire today? Like, does that happen on a regular basis?
It shouldn't happen. Basically, there's certain roles it's not that they can't go to the scene.
Yeah.
There's certain roles they wouldn't be able to be in what we call the hot zone, which is the danger zone. With expired gear, or else, we're not meeting our health and safety. Responsibilities as the employer, right?
Right, so, I mean, literally, you've got 20 years of not full capacity of people being able to.
Yeah, I don't know if some of that equipment's been passed on, like,
Yeah.
kept around, so I wouldn't say, there's been one person that's been wearing something.
Yeah.
For that significant of a time, but I'm not sure of past practice and how it got to that extent, but yeah, it's not ideal.
Any other questions, council?
You know approximately, sorry, thank you, what rent would be on like a year's rent on a set of bunker gear or 6 months rent? Do you
Don't
know?
remember offhand.
Okay.
To be quite honest, I
That's
don't
fair.
wanna guess for this.
That's,
This brings me back to Councilor McGrath's comments earlier about the roof from the road, and I don't think he's incorrect. This may be a prudent move to do this. I can't tell you for sure one way or the other, by fire equipment. We may have to just take a harder look at something else in the budget. We had a guesstimate of where we thought we were going to be. And I would certainly hope that we can stick pretty close to that, because it was a shock to begin with. So there may be some other things that when we get around to doing the budget, we have to just hold off for a bit of time to make this whole system work. I have read the motion. Did I have a mover and a second? I did have a mover and a second. Are there any other questions at this point? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Motion carries. Correspondence, there were 2 requests for the Santa Claus parade. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the process? Moved by Councilor Morrison, second by Councilor Fisher, that the council of the municipality of Huron approve the request of the temporary road closure in Brussels on December 2nd of 2023 from 4:45 p.m. until 6:15 p.m. for the Brussels Santa Claus parade. All those in favor? Carried. And a mover and a seconder for the Seaport, Councilor Deal, Councilor Wilby, that the council of the municipality of Huron to approve the request temporary road closures in Seaforth on November 24th of 2023 from 6:30 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. for the Santa Claus parade. All those in favor? And motion carries. Everybody that voted in favor has to show up for the parade. I have nothing other unfinished. I do have council reports, and I'm pretty sure the deputy mayor's got a good.
Which good ones you want? But
I'd say the service review.
There was more than one?
yeah, no, but our last county council meeting was very good, so what, took me longer to drive there than what the meeting was, but anyway, it was not a lot in it, but right now at the county, we're going through a service level review. So we spent last Thursday, I think it was, all day. From nine till 2-ish, I guess, and then yesterday again from 9 till 2, and we have another one on Thursday from 9 to 2. And so basically, we're going through every department in the county. I think Megan pointed out the fact that we're involved in over 100 programs or throughout the county, and I think, and basically what this is a review to look at stuff that we're doing. Are we doing it well? Do we need to do it? So gonna be some good conversations, I think, out of it. It's a real eye opener. Certainly somebody like myself that's just new on there. It's a multitude of stuff that we've got our fingers in. So, but yeah, so it's very enlightening. And like I said, we still have one more day to go with it. And then there will be a report come back. And council will have to put their priorities in line of what they want to support in the future and what maybe we can let go, or maybe just different ways of doing stuff too. So it's, Mayor has anything to add to that?
I'm just gonna add a little bit to it because I was really concerned in the spring, had a conversation with Treasury about where we were gonna be, and I told Treasury this at the time, I told all of County Council this about a month ago, is that when we started our term of council this year, or this term, if you take the budget that we started with, and what I anticipate the budget is going to be at the end of our term, that on average, every municipality in Huron County will be paying an extra $1 million per year to the county just to cover the costs of what they're doing. I had the discussion with Treasury in the spring, and it took a little bit of a talk before they agreed with my numbers. I mentioned it all to County Council about a month ago. Mike did present last week that I think it was at the start of this term, which would have been the 2022 budget, I guess, in December or whatever, for the 2023 year, which would have been the first one. We were a little over $40 million. His anticipated number, what he believes is going to cost to run the county by 2030, it'll be at 85 million. So I had a conversation with Treasury, apparently the CAO and Treasury have had a lot of conversations the last little while. And all of County Council has realized it was time we did a service review to actually understand what's going on. The benefit of these 3 days is we're not debating stuff at this point. We're getting a true understanding of what all the county does, what's mandatory, and what do we do that's discretionary. And there's a lot of stuff that's discretionary. Now, I made the comment the first day we were there, after we were through most of that day's reports, that if county wanted to, we could take 10% out of our budget. We could, just because of discretionary stuff that we do. And it probably wouldn't be that hard to take 10% out, although you're going to get rid of a service that somebody considers important. The advantage of doing what we're doing, where we see all 100 and some programs at once, is if you do it piecemeal. And it's the same problem we used to have here with our budget when you did one department at a time, trying to figure out what to pull out. It's always so easy to make arguments to justify why you need to keep that one in. But when you compare everything all at once, even the treasurer said, he says, there's lots of programs we have that only cost $20,000 or $30,000, which with $100 million budget, it doesn't sound like that much. But you start putting a whole bunch of those together, you start to get a bigger number. And so the whole idea is we need a full understanding of everything we do provide, and then figure out what we're going to not provide anymore. And I do get the true feeling in the room that we will be starting to remove some services, so that we're not doing the kinds of increases that were forecast by the Treasury. We'll see what happens. We've got one more day of this review, and then over the course of the next couple of months, there's going to be some hard decisions made. But I do believe county council's ready at this point to make some of those decisions. Are there any other boards, committees, meetings, or seminars that anybody wants to talk about? Okay, are there any requests by members? Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To CAO, please, at our next meeting, could we have a update, please, on Brussels? So I was gonna say cemetery, Brussels development and Brussels Arena and Menastra, Toronto Boulevard, and why we don't have the fire alarm yet, please. Thank you.
Councillor Morrison, you had some.
Well, Councillor Fisher's first two things are my two things.
Okay. Are there any notices of motion at this time? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you would allow me a little bit of leverage here, a little bit of time. I'd like to bring a motion forward at the next meeting of council, and it revolves around Green Fire Department buying a fan to, I think, suck out or blow smoke out of their house. Out of a house on fire or trying to clear the house. I think they had talked to Kent about getting it replaced. I think the bearings were going on it. I think there was some back and forth, and I think Kent in the end said that there was no money this year for it, but maybe next year. And maybe through a little bit of lack of communication on both ends, the gray guys went ahead and ordered it themselves, and it was a $6,000 fan. The bearings, I believe, went out of the fan, so they figured they needed it. They had a demonstration of one, and they ended up buying it, so they did. So now they didn't follow proper protocol for purchasing the fan. They understand that, and I'm not by any means trying to reward either side. I just wonder if council would consider maybe paying for that, or paying a part of that, a portion of that, maybe in next year's budget. That's all. So I'll bring that motion forward.
Are there any other notices of motion? Okay, seeing none, any announcements at this time? Deputy Mayor.
I just want to bring up that we have our famous Ethel Turkey Supper coming up on October the 29th. We still have tickets. It's $15. It's the best meal you'll get for $15.
Things are looking good. I will attest to that.
Thank you very much.
Councillor.
I had a chance to attend the Brussels Fire Open House the other night, and it was really well attended, and it was a good event. And I don't know why helmets are $600, because they're giving out little red ones for free. But I understand the importance of a good fit. It's not an fit in the head.
Okay, we are down to other business. Cranbrook Community Center Committee requests support to submit a Commonwealth LEAF Initiative Works Grant application. Can I get you mover in a second? Moved by Councilor Beal, second by Councilor Morrison, that the council of the municipality of Huron East support the Cranbrook Community Center Committee in submitting an LEAF grant application for the Cranbrook Community Center Revival Project. Comments or questions? Councilor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there about 15 more of these we could do, Lisa, this year, or what?
Not sure.
Is this an annual thing from the?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's the first time I've heard of it, so it's something that the Cranbrook Hall have found themselves. They've also received a other grant, the Agriflex. Oh, yeah, so they've also received another grant from someone else too, but.
Yeah, a few years ago they got one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, so they're small grants for smaller little projects, not something that you would be able to apply for your Seaport Arena.
You're mind reader, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is this federal or provincial, please?
It's insurance. It's an insurance organization.
An insurance company.
It's a common.
Oh, I see, okay.
Commonwealth Insurance, it's a private company.
They're contributing back to the community kind of thing. I see, okay, thank you.
Counselor Deal.
We have a former treasurer on our committee now, so she knows of some of these little holes to dig in. And she's been very proactive at getting things filled out and ready to go, so we really appreciate having her on board, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Counselor McGrath.
Did you get your letter by Friday, 2 weeks ago? For property?
New tax bill?
No, for,
Yes, we did.
yes, we did.
Yes,
Has anything been done?
Oh,
yes, there has been.
I know it's like the confidential and all that other stuff, but
actually,
we'd like to be like.
I wasn't in this loop because direction was given by council, so staff take care of it.
Okay, so we've got the letter and proceeded, okay.
And actually, okay, I do have a mover and a seconder, all in favor. Motion carries. Before I get to bylaws, there's one thing I forgot to mention earlier, with payroll. I know there's at least a mistake on there, my fault, and I think there's a mistake on their staff's fault, but I was overpaid. So I will stop in sometime later this week and get those details worked out. Okay. Number 15, can I get a moving seconder to, be hereby resign bonds? It's the first number. Can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaw 62, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Deal. Be it hereby resolved that bylaw 62, a bylaw for the Geiger Municipal Drain, be given final readings and signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? And the motion carries. Mover and a seconder for bylaw 74, Councillor Morrison, Councillor Wilby, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 74 of 2023, a bylaw to temporarily close roads in Brussels and Seaport for the Santa Claus parades be given first, second, third, and final readings, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. And number 16, a closed session. Can I get a mover and a seconder to go into closed? Councillor Chartrand and Councillor Dalton. That a closed meeting of council be held on Tuesday, October 17, 2023 at 8:57 p.m. in the town hall council chambers in accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 for the purposes of the following matters. Adoption of October 3rd, 2023 closed session of council meeting minutes and 239, paragraph 2, subsection E, subsection J, litigation or potential litigation regarding trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality and has monetary or potential monetary value. And that the CAO, Bradley Roberts, Director of Public, Barry Mills, Director of Finance, Treasurer Stacy Gaynor, and Clerk Treasurer Jessica Rudy remain in the closed section.